Welcome back to the Endgame. Believe it or not, I do play games that aren't Generations Ultimate. My god. It was about 2 months, at least, of me playing the same game repeatedly, but now we're finally in a different Monster Hunter game. It is the one that came before Generations Ultimate, and for those of you who have been listening intently to what I've been saying about the reason as to why I was only playing one single Monster Hunter game in the series, well, you would know that this means my computer has been repaired. It is now working, which is good news. I'm also, by the way, joined by a very good friend, and someone whom I'm sort of helping through the early end game of For Ultimate, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll see how we go. I don't think we really have a plan, do we, Ethan?
No, we don't have a plan at all. Although, I do intend, if I can, to hunt some stuff. If that's on the table, I'd like to do that.
I suspect there will be something along those lines going on. I think we won't do anything too extreme in terms of, making whole new armor sets, making weapons from scratch, because that might involve us doing a lot of low-rank stuff, who knows. I think, how much of the offline have you actually done in this game? Because I don't remember anymore.
I'm almost done. I have like five urgents left. They're all in the same ticket, and like one of them is Gore Magala, one of them is Jin Moran or Darin Moran. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Darin.
There's
Darin is in this game.
3 more out. Yeah, there's like 3 more other than that, and I just don't. I'm so green right now. I'm so like not good at 4 anymore because I'm unpracticed. Although it'll be good to play one of the old ones because I really do want to get my chops back up for when we try and do that challenge run.
Yeah, for those who aren't aware, there is sort of a plan in the works where Ethan and I do a simultaneous run through Monster Hunter Generations, and then, well, I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically, when one of us faints, it will, or rather, not just faint, but actually fail a quest, it will affect the other person's run. They're sort of interlinked in that way. The plan is to call it the Doomed Link, and it will be pretty good, but it requires a little bit of planning. Need to work out the logistics of how that's going to appear, and well, how I'm actually going to record it specifically. And yeah, it's still very much in the fetal stages at the moment. But for the time being, yeah, I suppose we're here in For Ultimate, and Ethan doesn't really play the older games as much these days. He didn't mention it in that moment, but he's actually playing Wilds at the moment, playing a lot of it, or has done since it came out. And yeah, well, I think the muscle memory is still there for you, which is what's important.
Yeah, I've actually got the entire Doomed Link notepad up here.
Okay.
The rules are pretty much going to be: the players start a fresh file on Monster Hunter Generations. The players must be matching 3 pieces of armor. The players can use different weapon types, but must be from the same monster. The players must also match their hunting style and hunter arts. The players must change their hunting style after each urgent hunt. The players gain the veto option after receiving a plate or a gem monster drop. To use the veto option, the item must be sold or discarded to activate the effect. Using the veto function allows a player to make a change to their hunter arts or style, and the other player must match it. If one player carts on a mission 3 times, both players are locked from the mission permanently. This can kill the run. If the players should choose to abandon the quest in an effort to avoid run failure, they will be forced to sell a piece of non-shared armor that is currently equipped.
Sounds pretty,
we
pretty well
made
designed.
this so much harder than I remember. That's gonna be so hard.
Yeah, we first devised this probably about 1.5 years ago at this point, perhaps even 2 years now, is how long it's been. It hasn't happened for various reasons. Obviously, most recently, the fact that my computer absolutely shat the bed and died. But yeah, we'll try to make it happen soon. The biggest thing I think between the two of us has been just aligning our schedules so that we can play together, but we can make that work. We'll just pick a day consistently where we can play, and we'll make it happen. It doesn't even have to be like once a week necessarily. It could be once every 2 weeks, but we do want to try and establish some kind of consistency, I guess.
Yeah, and we can record multiple episodes in one sit down, so.
This is true as well. Did you have a specific monster in mind now, or should I just pick whatever?
I don't know. I remember I was making charge blades back in the day.
Did we get anything to G-rank level?
We did. I think I'm wearing it. I think it's... I don't remember. Dude, I think you have different textures than me. I think that's what it is. I'm looking at yours, and your textures all look different. They look cleaner.
I don't think my textures are different to yours. But maybe I had different icons. I might have HD icons or something like that. No, I don't even have that. You see, there are some texture packs for Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate that are really, what's the word, liberal in their redrawing and how sharp they look. I'm barely using anything. I did get some... Okay, so basically there's one main texture pack, but you can pick and choose which parts of the texture pack you want actually enabled in your game, and I did pick some things, and perhaps I do have higher resolution icons. I can't really tell because I don't have a side-by-side comparison, but I do know that some textures are different. One thing that I can immediately see here that I know definitely to be modified is the buttons, the L1 and R1 there. It's designed to be more like a PlayStation controller. So you can see there for the button prompts, ingredient levels, and sit at a bench, they are both PlayStation buttons. So that's because I use a PlayStation 4 controller. So that was one thing that I did include from the texture pack. But yeah, I can't really remember at this stage what I've included and what I haven't included.
I only have one set for G-Rank, and it's a raw sword and shield. And then I have one item, or one weapon that is G-Rank that's not a sword and shield, and that is my Rarity 9 Seditious Sea Blade, which I think that we were working on upgrading.
Yeah, this thing, do you have a further upgrade for this? I don't recall. Oh, yes, of course, because the maximum upgrade is Rarity 10 for that. So you would have another one.
Yes.
We could work on that if you want.
Soregios Lens and a Conqueror Seal times 2.
Conqueror Seal. I think that's from G-Rank Elder Dragons, possibly. Not exclusively, I don't think, but you do get them from there, as I recall. Might check Ping's Dex. I will have Ping's Dex open. Ping's Dex is my bible for Monster Hunter. So I'm going to have that open as we play.
Hello, P-Berry.
Yeah, hey P-Berry, and hello Hossein as well. It is a weird time for me to be streaming. It just sort of works. And part of it is also because I'm really eager to play this game again.
If I look at my configuration for my graphics, mine is almost identical to his. I don't know why we would have why it would look different.
Yeah,
like
I think we've established
that native.
You've definitely got 3D on, even though it says that it's off, and I've got no idea why it's stuck there. Perhaps something is corrupt within the settings, the internal settings, perhaps of the game file, I don't know. But it's kind of unfortunate.
Well, I could just get new textures, couldn't I, if I were to download, like, change textures?
Possibly,
solve
but
the problem?
It may not solve the problem of 3D being stuck on. So what I might do is ask around. I'll ask around, see if it's a known issue, and what we could do to fix it. Because what are you running right now? You're running the latest version of Citra that you were able to download, aren't you? It's not even related to the build of Citra.
I'm running one that you got me.
Yeah. So, oh, okay, so was that... So it's not official Citra Nightly, it's like one of the custom builds, is it?
I think so.
I seem to remember, though, that you did run the game with the latest version of Citra before it was shut down, and that didn't
I did,
solve
but then
the
I
problem.
lost that copy of Citra because I got a new computer.
Yeah, and that didn't solve the problem, so...
No.
Okay, so I've just got ping stacks open at the moment, just looking at the charge blades.
I did, Hossein, and it didn't do jack diddly for squiddly.
Yeah. Yeah, the cheat codes do not work either. That's what's so frustrating. But anyway. So, if I look at... What the hell's it called? Like the very first upgrade. There it is. Aslat Charger. Right, so you're at upgrade level 3 out of 4. Alright, that's what I had opened ping stacks to check. It wasn't that, it was Conqueror Seal specifically, so... Conqueror Seal gives me a list of quests, but I can see Dark Domination, which I know to be a Cantor, 1001 shards. Well, that sort of works because we may have 1001 shards available to us, but I suspect that it's an Apex fight. I don't know if we want to be two-manning an Apex. Yeah, so that outbreak there indicates that it's Apex. Well, I would say that a Cantor would be best for Conqueror Seals. You've got Eternal Emperor, Wings of Woe. I know that Wings of Woe is Chaotic Gormagala, if I... maybe I shouldn't say that I know, that's my memory of it. Beyond Brawn, I think, is a Rajan quest. Eternal Emperor, don't know. Do not know that one. So I would say of all of these... Oh, and also The Sky is Falling, which is Brute Tigrex. You... Was it you or me? I think it was you were making the not Brute Tigrex, excuse me. The Molten Tigrex Sword and Shield, weren't you?
That was, yeah.
And that is a quest that gives us Conqueror Seals, so we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When it comes to that, we wouldn't be able to kill 2 birds, 1 stone in the case of 1001 shards, because I really don't think we should do Apex right now. So we'll just try to do standard G-rank Seregios if I can find it. What have we got here? We may as well do the double Seregios because... Oh wait, I actually meant to go back, not select the quest. We'll do the double Seregios because I suspect that will be a better chance for the rare drop. But I do want to change my equipment first. There's my lovely transition again. If I'm fanning myself at any point, it is because it is very hot. That is the reason why. Seregios. I find him to be a very annoying monster. He moves around a lot, so... Well, not annoying in the sense that he's difficult, annoying in the sense that it frustrates me that he never stays still, so I will use something ranged. Yeah, I will bring a bow. Not the one that I had equipped, but I'll bring something. Maybe... Pressing all the wrong buttons. We'll bring Spread. Thunder. Which is that. I think that is precisely what I had equipped, which is extremely embarrassing. Yeah, that is it. That is what I had equipped. I got a little bit confused because it obviously looks like the standard Fatalis bow, which is a really good, raw, rapid bow. But no, I was actually using this. There you go. I've taken all of this time just to ultimately equip the exact same thing that I had on before. Excellent work.
I think we did a stream right at the end of last year, Peaberry. He and I.
Yeah,
we popped on
like
for a
that.
little bit. We didn't play Monster Hunter, I don't think. I think that... Did I watch you play a game? Is that what it was?
Yeah, you watched me play Monster Hunter. It would have been Monster Hunter, I think. I don't think you've joined me for a non-Monster Hunter game in a long time. It was probably Pokemon Snap or something that you joined me for ages ago.
Yeah, that Tyler was all about that. He loved that you were playing that.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyler, it was just me and Tyler. Tyler is Ethan's brother, by the way. Tyler joined me for Pokemon Snap with just he and I for the second recording, which was definitely a moment. Basically, for those who are unaware, which is probably all of you, I was playing Pokemon Snap, the European version, on my Nintendo 64, and I realized that there was no option to change the language. I thought that they would be kind enough to give me an English option, but no, it was sold in Germany and was in only the German language, so that was very entertaining to be reading out all of these German Pokemon names and very awkwardly pronouncing them, only to then find that someone in my audience who watched me regularly was actually German, so yeah, that was great. You know when you feel almost naked in your shame?
Morchingang.
What the hell's that?
Blastoise. I don't know. I'm just saying some German sounding Pokemon.
I seem to remember that, I think it was Pidgey was called Taubsi or something like that. They were very aggressive and gruff sounding. That's all you need to know. Don't know why I'm bringing poison coatings, honestly.
Because you just like to be prepared.
Well,
what I will never
them.
understand is why you don't use
item sets.
That it just blows my mind.
It would blow your mind less if you played more of the games where you just don't have it as an option. I'm afraid that I'll become reliant on it. Well, not so much reliant on it. I imagine that I would be partially frustrated by its absence, so I just don't use it. You don't miss what you didn't know you had. So... or you don't miss what you never had in the first place. So that's the way I look at it. I mean, some people would see it as sort of a form of self-harm that doesn't really make much logical sense, but, like, seriously, I don't need it. I'm perfectly comfortable without it, and it would be pig-headed of me to not do it and then not actually play the older games, but I play the older games more often than I play the ones with item sets, so that's the method to my madness.
I found an angry Durgan.
Very good. So yeah, coating's not really required for this bow. I suppose I could have brought some status coatings, but...
oh, you missed.
I'll have to check to see if this bow has... okay, it has arc shot, so therefore I cannot do my heavy shot, which is a little unfortunate, but that's alright. When you're used to playing 30 FPS Monster Hunter, it really does feel different when you come into 60.
I'm telling you, man, 60 should be the standard. Anything less than 60 is kind of unacceptable.
And for the record, like, it should have been the standard a long time ago. Of course, now it very much is the standard in a lot of ways. Maybe not in everything, but much more so now than it was when this game came out. But in my opinion, even when this game came out, 60 should have been a ubiquitous standard that everyone met. But obviously, graphics is more immediately noticeable, so if you're a console manufacturer, you're not going to be very interested in prioritizing frame rate over graphics, because at the end of the day, not only is that not as immediately noticeable, but you would have to expect all of the people playing on your system to go and essentially upgrade their hardware to fully experience what you're offering. So it was a little bit easier with the PC community, but console was not always that easy. I always go to try and do my heavy shot. Feels really good to be completely out of the the chaos of this monster's attack patterns. Oh. Well, my cat's doing very good work.
I don't mind sitting underneath him as long as I've got like a solid shield. I've learned that over the years, Monster Hunter to me is just not Monster Hunter if I'm not carrying a big ass shield, or even a small shield.
That's fair.
One of my favorite changes that they made in the new one is the addition of something called a perfect block or a perfect guard, which is if you time a guard correctly, then you end up getting like no stamina drain. It's more like a parry than anything, and anyone with a shield can do it. It's pretty cool. At first I didn't like it, but it really equalizes sword and shield in a way that you would not believe. Turns it into one of the best weapons in the game.
I don't know, I mean, you describe it as equalizing it, but I always thought that Sword and Shield was one of the best balanced weapons in the series. The only exception to that would probably be when they had glitched damage for it in Monster Hunter Freedom 1. Aside from that, it was pretty good. It was a bit underpowered in 2nd gen, particularly Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite, but yeah, I've always felt that it was pretty tasteful in its balancing.
Got the tail?
Yeah, that's good.
Alright, I need to sharpen if I can get my... Do I have flash bombs? Nor. Cleor. Don't you fucking bleed me, you bitch. Alright, I'm going to the next room. Have fun.
Well, you've picked an excellent time to abandon me.
Listen, it's not abandoning, alright? It's a strategic retreat. Oh, shit! Oh, God! I looked at your screen.
Yeah.
Well, you know something, man? My bad.
That's
on me.
alright. Fortunately, I can break out of these things pretty quickly. Oop.
Yeah.
This is the second time now I thought that I timed my roll perfectly, but instead I was just slightly too late. The problem with timing your roll slightly too late is that it looks like you just stood there and took it. Oh, that was very well positioned. Excellent. Well. There you have it. I might lower my internal resolution a little bit just to improve performance. Now that I've actually got a decent laptop, I will probably start doing, what do you call it? Live streaming through the laptop, using the desktop as the machine doing the heavy lifting of playing the game, because OBS, like streaming with OBS does cause instability. I mean, maybe some people are just like, well, you're not going to have an issue streaming this game and playing it at the same time. Well, it is an issue for my computer, so there you have it. Maybe not forever, but at this stage I will need to wait before upgrading. Yeah, I'll use a max potion, definitely. I probably, actually, no. I was going to say that I should have paintballed the other Seregios when I saw him, but when I saw him, he was actually leaving the area, so I should be forgiven for not even attempting that. Hopefully he wasn't leaving to come over here. That's the last thing I need.
Can I get a knockdown, please?
Well, actually, I probably should go for a mounting attack.
Thank you. Go ahead and hit him with a full SAD. GG.
Nicely done.
You can always kind of feel it, you know? You're right around that time. Monster Hunter needs health bars.
Oh god.
Morons.
Let us not even validate their opinions by discussing them. How about that?
Yeah.
Sweep it under the
Agreed.
rug. Yeah, apparently, for those who aren't aware, probably most of you know, but and I heard this from Ethan, but it's actually discussed among people who play the 5th and 6th gen games that it would be a good idea for monsters to have health bars. And to be honest, I struggle to believe that that's even a conversation that's happening, but well, not struggle to believe, but it's an unpleasant realization is what I should say. It's not that I'm completely incredulous, it's just very disappointing. And I suppose I can take some solace in the fact that I'm not really playing those games anymore, so it doesn't affect me, but yeah, the relationship between you and the monster is going to be fundamentally different if you can see its health while you fight it. I already dislike the focus that people have on damage numbers when they're engaged with a monster in combat, because inevitably when you fight the monster, you will be distracted by those numbers. That is actually where your satisfaction is coming from. It's seeing a big number appear on your screen, whereas instead, you should be feeling the fight more than just watching the fight. Yes, you need to watch it in order to strategically succeed, but your satisfaction should come through something that you feel, not just see, and in my opinion, you have a much more symbiotic relationship with the monster if you actually watch your hammer physically connect into its head, and, you know, the whole game slows down slightly when you do it, you know, things like that. But instead, I think the significance of that moment that I just gave as an example becomes muted when the satisfaction instead is that big damage number that you just got. I think it is a distraction, and the reason why I can say that from a position of being informed about it, to be honest, is because I gave Monster Hunter World a try with damage numbers off. So I originally played World on the PS4 when it came out, and I had damage numbers on for the entirety of that experience. And then when the game came out on PC, I thought, well, how about I give the game a try, but with damage numbers turned off? And my relationship with the game changed completely. It wasn't until the damage numbers were gone that I realized how much I was focusing on them instead of the monster itself, and it just became more meaningful. So it's just another example of detaching the player from the monster if you, for example, add a health bar as well as these damage numbers. So
It further gamifies something that's supposed to have an almost like mystical relationship with the player, something that's very immersive and atmospheric.
And I think I should also add that damage numbers as an idea in video gaming is not a bad thing, but Monster Hunter exists distinct from other RPGs for a reason. It should do things differently, and when it does these things differently and does them well, that should be celebrated, not approached from a perspective of, oh, well, this was just some messy idea from the past that needs to be improved upon. No, I think it really adds to the uniqueness of Monster Hunter. I think one of the dangers of trying to streamline is that you actually make the game less unique in certain ways, certain fundamental ways. But I think what Ethan has told me about Wilds suggests that they're actually still maintaining a strong identity for the series while also trying to address some of the complaints that were that were levied at Capcom for what was done in Monster Hunter Rise. So, but again, I don't speak from a place of experience when I say that. That's just what Ethan has told me, and Ethan's very good at really distilling the information that I need to hear, at least for Wilds, because I was trying to work out whether or not I wanted to play it, and it was for different reasons than the expectation that I wouldn't enjoy it, that I chose not to play it. It was because I just don't really want to put the time into that game right now. I want to put time into other things, so I think I'm just going to exit the series from here. But from what Ethan says, I think that Wilds is a good effort. It's a solid effort, whereas Rise was it was shambolic and insulting. That's what Rise was, whereas Wilds actually is tasteful. So, yeah, that's my impression.
It's definitely doing its own thing, man, for sure. If they would make those small changes that I suggested, those very few small changes, the game would be a lot better. But other than that, it's good stuff. I enjoy
Just
playing
Jezza.
it, for sure.
Yeah, Just Jezza. I won't be playing Generations Ultimate again for a little while. It's definitely overstayed its welcome, at least for me. It was necessitated by the fact that I couldn't play any other games for the series. Either I wouldn't record at all for Monster Hunter, or I would just do Generations Ultimate, and I felt that the latter was a better option than the former. But yeah, definitely going to return to the Origins series that I started, which you mentioned. So far, I've only done one recording for that. I will do a recording for Monster Hunter DOS as well. And of course, much like I've done with this series, I will then go on to just casually record the game every time I want to sit down and play it. So that will be, for that particular series, the Origins, as I called it, Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter 2, and once I have moved on from Monster Hunter 1, it'll be Monster Hunter G, so the G-rank version of that game.
Knockout?
So essentially the PlayStation 2 Monster Hunters. Even though DOS is technically second generation, because it's a PlayStation 2 Monster Hunter game, it really does have an almost a Genesis type feel. It feels like the original expression of Monster Hunter, a sort of, and I suppose it's because it's Alpha Team, really. Everything Alpha Team really does feel like getting back to the roots of where the series came from. Particularly when you go from a Beta Team game to an Alpha Team game. Just trying to get in good critical distance here.
Ah, gotcha, bitch.
So I'm assuming, Ethan, that you don't really use SAEDs in Generations Ultimate, but are you using them at all here?
Rarely, when I have an opportunity for it, but I'm not gonna, like, put myself at risk for it, you know?
Yeah. That's fair enough.
I'm noticing that there's just so much commitment in my movements that I'm not accustomed to now because, you know, having played so much of Wilds and World, that I am, like, making decisions too early.
Yeah.
Before I have enough data.
It may also be the speed of the game. Honestly, going to, like I did play a little bit of World. Oh, he's this way, by the way. Going back and playing World very briefly, which I did when I thought that I was actually going to play Wilds or actually give it a try. I thought, oh, I'll go back to World and try and familiarize myself with how these games feel. And I felt that the pace of the game was different. It may even be wrong to say that it's faster. It is situational. Sometimes traditional Monster Hunter can be very fast once you're in 3rd gen and 4th gen. But yeah, World had a sort of speed to it in places where I think it does change how you make decisions and how you play.
Well, there's a set buffer.
Sorry, you probably had to wake up there.
On there's a set buffer on a lot of stuff. Like, your movements in the older games, there isn't a lot of, like, loading another option. I don't know how to explain it, but the edges of the moves are crispier and less mushy. So here in these games, the edges of the animations are, like, seem to be poorly defined until you've played them, like, a lot. Once you've played the game, like, a lot, that unique game, you get a really good sense of where the end of the animation is and when you should start pressing a button. But when you've been playing games where the animations end at different points for the same exact move, you'll find that you're pressing the button earlier or later than you should.
I see.
Which will either front load it and then you won't get anything, or it will back load it, in which case you've had a whole couple of milliseconds of wasted time with you not doing anything.
And really on this subject, I'm reminded of something that immediately drew me to Wilds that Ethan told me. And it is that I shouldn't be referring to you in the third person, you're right here. What you told me was that the animations are snappier in Wilds, which is really important, because one of the problems that I have with, for example, the Souls series, was that after Dark Souls 1, so you had Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, beginning with Dark Souls 2, the way the character moved seemed a little bit more over-animated. What actually is best for these action games is to have very precise, quick animations, so that way you feel like you're more in control of your character. And I think going into 5th generation, they had a little bit of that. They had over-animated movements where you don't have that really locked down interaction between your controller and your character in the game, your hands and your controller and the character in the game. So the fact that they actually addressed that, because I don't know if this, oh no, we did have this conversation, apparently that was something that people were asking for, they thought that it was a bit too over-animated, so Capcom did listen and lock that down a little bit. That is pretty, that's something to praise Capcom for, definitely.
Yeah, I can say with confidence that the weapons have never felt better than they do in Wilds ever. Like the experience that you get in, and it's funny because like I walk into Wilds with the understanding that I'm gonna dislike focus mode. I'm not gonna like how it feels, and it's funny because the complaints that I have about the game being not difficult enough, or the fact that the cat cannibalizes the potion system, the monster's not doing enough damage, cannibalizes the armor sphere system a little bit, and then the sacred kind of pulls you out of any serious danger for the most part if ever you need to. So like you have to choose not to engage in certain systems. But with all of that being said, the combat is so fun and so well defined, and it's such a wonderful expression of skill, especially if you are a hunter that's got experience. If you're somebody who's played the game for a long time and you understand these weapons and have a relationship with them, your skill expression, it's like, imagine if you were like, let's take these games for example. Let's say you had to communicate in a language that used the alphabet that you know, but you were constrained to using words that only half of the alphabet, and then suddenly out of nowhere somebody handed you the rest of the letters and said, I think you dropped these. You know you can communicate with these too, right? Like it's so odd. It feels like it always should have been there. That's
Okay.
how natural it feels and how good it feels. And it's like, it doesn't matter that the game isn't perfect, because the execution of weapons and how they all play, short of the bowguns, I think, because there's something lost in the bowguns, because now everybody can aim, which is something that was exclusive to the bowguns, where they feel like they're lackluster now because they have always had focus mode, so to speak.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and that would be a nuance lost on me without, given that I haven't actually played the game. So that's a bit of a shame that they've by the sounds of it, possibly worsened bowgun further, because I really was not happy with 5th generation bowgun at all. Just completely displeased, whereas I had the opposite.
They leaned into one of your ideas, though. They leaned into one of your ideas in particular. Internal ammo is something that's every single weapon. I think that's what people were complaining about, was the fact that every gun had internal ammo, and it would recharge over time, which to me is like, I get it. Like, I hear people complain about that, and I'm like, yes, that is kind of annoying that you don't have to go out and like get the materials. But the thing is that like, there are more powerful versions of all of the shots that you can go get consumable ammo for. But every gun has certain ammo types that are infinite. And I think that was probably a good move to an extent. I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I'm not a bow user. I'm not a bowgun user. I never have been. So I don't have a huge frame of reference for it. All I know is that the biggest complaints that you hear about the bowguns is that they no longer feel special because everybody can do what they're doing now, which is aim.
Yeah, I'd say so. Based on what you've said. I just realized, by the way, that I played that whole previous hunt with both screens up. if you are watching live and you ever see me conducting a hunt with both screens up, I need you to scream at me, figuratively speaking, in the chat and tell me to stop doing that. Because, yeah, it's much more immersive to just have the top screen visible. Actually starts to look like a normal Monster Hunter game and not a 3DS Monster Hunter game. I consider the 3DS to have been a pretty poor system for the series to release on. You know, you can have your own opinions about the 3DS as a system on its own, but I do not think it should have released on that. So, well, maybe it should have, given the environment. What I'm trying to say is I don't like the system. It frustrates me that I have these two screens that I have to deal with when I'm trying to record the thing. Better to record here on an emulator. Believe me, if you want to try and record on physical hardware, it's miserable. Absolutely miserable, or at least it used to be. Anyway, that's my brief rant about the 3DS over. Otherwise I'll be here all day. I wonder if I should do... Yeah, I'll do more blue mushrooms. Basically, I do not have the resources necessary to actually make max potions. Not that I'm immediately in need of them, but I will be in the future, no doubt. So, yeah. Let's alternate things a little bit, Ethan, and we'll do... what's his name? Molten Tigrex this time. And then probably go back to Seregios after that, because I'm assuming you didn't get a lens in that fight.
I didn't. And if I'm gonna play Tigrex, I should probably switch to... You know what? No, I'm fine. I'm gonna rock Charge Blade, because I'm playing pretty well with it. Give me a second, I am gonna use the restroom.
We are definitely on the same wavelength there, Jezza, because I had not seen the last thing that you wrote, which was basically also a rant about 3DS and how it was a terrible system for Monster Hunter to be on. Again, everyone's got their own perspective on that. I find that the people who have the most gushing, praise for the game, or praise for 3DS as a system to play Monster Hunter on, are the people who started in a 3DS Monster Hunter game, which is to be expected, I guess, but it's not a good system at all. It's the games that were on the 3DS were very good, but the hardware itself was never very impressive to me. I found the Nintendo DS Lite impressive back in the mid-2000s, but, you know, once you're getting into the 2010s, you had things like the PS Vita, and that was much superior hardware. It was just unfortunate that the games were not... they were in a different league, simply in a different league. I would have been much happier with Monster Hunter on the PS Vita, but, you know, sometimes these things just do not play out that way. And I also recognize that many, many people in this world, because of how poorly the PS Vita performed, have never themselves played on a PS Vita. This is actually one interesting thing about this whole subject. It is the fact that a lot of people haven't even used a PS Vita. For those who have, they know. It's one of those if you know moments. Like sitting down with a PS Vita in like 2015. When did it come out? Maybe 2014. But I was using it in 2015, I think, because my friend bought it. And I played Freedom Unite on it because you could actually download Freedom Unite on it at the time from the PlayStation Store. And just the hardware was beautiful. Just absolutely top of the line at the time, and completely blew the Nintendo DS out of the water, but they didn't have the crucial thing required for a release, and that is positive sentiment from gamers and a willingness to spend money on the hardware, and also they didn't have the games library. All of these things working against one another led to a complete failure for that system. And so, yeah, obviously it never would have been practical for Monster Hunter to be on the system. I guess I'm sort of speaking in purely theoretical terms. Or in hypotheticals is what I mean. Yeah, it's... when I think of the possibilities, I dislike the 3DS more and more.
Yeah, the 3DS experience was kind of a nightmare with Monster Hunter. Mostly in the way that it felt in your hands, not in any other way from my perspective, but
it was
it just
unergonomic.
didn't fit in your hands very well. Yeah,
it felt awful.
And they
like
still
it would actually
are.
hurt
Like the
my
Switch
fingers.
is the same way.
Yep, yeah. They never managed to
I don't
nail that
understand.
down. So bizarre. You'd think that would be the absolute first thing you'd figure out how to do well on a portable system, have it sit in your hands nicely. I always felt that, what was it? It's been so many years since I played now, but I think very awkwardly my pinky fingers never had anywhere to go. They just sort of, they'd almost lie flush with the bottom of the 3DS, and they just weren't gripping onto anything, and I'd actually get fatigue in my hands because of how I had to hold the thing. And every single time I talk about either lack of ergonomics or the fact that the screen was too small when it comes to the 3DS, they say, oh, well, you should have played on the 3DS XL. I only ever played on the 3DS XL. The new 3DS XL with that shitty little nub that barely functioned as a means to move your camera. A nub that was so useless that to actually get it to respond properly, you had to dig your thumbnail into it to give yourself some fucking leverage to actually move that camera when you're either getting chased by this monster or, you know, in hot pursuit of a monster. Just a fucking travesty of a system. Every time, like, I'm actually feeling my blood boil the more I think about the years that I spent playing Monster Hunter on that atrocious piece of hardware. Ugh. But anyway, 3DS enjoyers everywhere cried when they heard those words. But I'm going to equip something that I will actually use for Molten Tigrex. I go to say, the reason why I pause every time I say Molten Tigrex is because I go to say Brute Tigrex, but it is not that one. It is the other subspecies, of course.
Same thing.
Same thing? They are actually pretty similar.
They're the same damn thing.
We wouldn't want to detract from the coolness factor of Molten Tigrex, though. He is very cool. I think he's a well-designed subspecies.
I think I'm gonna die.
You think you're gonna die? What are you doing?
Well, I don't know for sure. I do know that I have like no raw meat, and I'm like out of well done steaks, so no more stamina for me.
And I suppose I'm not the best
Short of what I
person
bring
to give you stamina materials, am I?
No, certainly not.
I do have well done steaks, though. I've got 17 of them. How about I give them to you? They would be much better served in your inventory than in mine.
Oh, you think?
Oh, certainly.
See, I don't abide a lack of stamina, to be honest with you. I can't tolerate it.
Oh, looks like you've disconnected. I'll close this hub and make a new one, because that will probably cause it to bug out.
We're still in the... That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's just in-game. Sometimes to establish a consistent connection in-game, like in the actual in-game lobby, you need a really solid connection. And I might be the weak link here. I don't seem to have a great connection on this server that we're using, but that's alright. The hunts are playing out reasonably well.
I'm creating a new one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, had you already created one? I'm sorry.
No, that's alright. Whatever's easier.
Swiggity swooty coming for that booty.
Words to live by. Alright, I'm just going to make sure that...
I can't bring myself to
go.
play as a woman in Monster Hunter, but I am so jealous of the armors they get.
Yeah. That is kind of the universal comment. It is, oh yeah, the female armors generally look better, but my character's a male and I don't really want to play as a female. That I sort of get. I mean, most of my characters are male, but I just wanted to switch it up every now and again, you know. This was actually the first game where I made a female character, the one that you're seeing right now. Like, this was my first. But anyway. Alright, I'm looking for monsters.
Well, she's a real hottie.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen my guild card?
Hey, you're wearing Artian.
I sure am. Yeah, Artian made a reappearance in Wilds. and I was explaining to Ethan a number of days ago about how it actually exists in the older games. First appeared in 3rd gen, as I recall. Specifically Portable 3rd, and then it was also in 3 Ultimate. Pretty much offline focused, I think, in how you would get the actual pieces, but they're so freaking good for mixed sets. I mean, look at that. Free Element 1, Critical Draw 3, Artillery 4, Guard Up 4, Stamina Recovery 1. Although, I suppose the artillery is from my decorations, so scratch the artillery. All the rest of that is really, really good for a mixed set. And it's also got 2 slots. That's solid. So, yeah, good armor pieces. Definitely plenty of things in Portable 3rd and 3 Ultimate that can only be made using the Artian set. And, in other words, mixed sets that can only be made with Artian pieces because of just how good they are in many cases. And I haven't really made much Artian armor in 3 Ultimate because you have to do a bit of fishing in the village, and I haven't done much fishing in the village, so yeah, it's not really something I spend my time with, playing 3 Ultimate offline. I should, but when I play Monster Hunter, it's
really
usually
show off
online.
your guild card.
Oh yeah, that's right. Got to show off my
I'm
guild
looking
card.
at it right now. Oh.
Yeah, man. Bow chicka wow wow.
Yeah, she is something else.
It's the kind of thing you see when you close your eyes at night. And you wake up with a big wet stain. Oh, sorry, is that just me?
I see you're over 100 on all of your weapons. Well done.
Yes. That's one of my little goals. I don't actually care much for the awards in a guild card, if that's the word. The little achievements within the guild card. Like, guild card progression is not of much interest to me, but one little goal that I set for myself in every Monster Hunter game is to just get even weapon uses for the first 100. It ends up going above the 100 line on the first filter, so it ends up being like first 115 uses for most games. But yeah, it's nice. The reason why I like it is because it's got impact. When you first check it, it's like, oh shit. You're used to seeing, this really wacky alignment of bars, but instead, it's just flat the whole way through. Looks good. So yeah, before I forget, I am going to switch to the bottom screen. Again, I apologize that there's no good transition for that. There's a long story as to why. There used to be a good transition. Well, not really a transition. Better than that, we'll say.
I
Not
just
good.
moved my second screen over to my... I put it on a pop-out screen and moved it to my second screen.
Fair enough. Alright, I'm just checking to make sure that the Molten Tigrex is primarily weak to... water. He is. Okay.
He's weak to water and Charge Blade.
Certainly when you're the one swinging it around.
I'm such a cuck for Charge Blade, dude.
Well, it's definitely what you've become most comfortable with. There's nothing wrong with it. You're comfortable with it for the right reasons. And, I was a little bit cynical when 4 Ultimate came out and so many people were gravitating towards Charge Blade. I think I was cynical because I was thinking that maybe people were following a trend, but no, they were onto something. It's a freaking good weapon type.
Yeah, it feels very good. In a way that I don't think that Switch Axe feels good to me. I don't like it. I've tried it. My roommate loves it, but I can't get behind it. For me, Charge Blade makes sense because you're going from a faster weapon that's smaller with a little more defense and mobility to a heavier weapon, which is more of like a riskier output of damage. So there's a give and take there. But with Switch Axe, it appears to be like heavy, risky, heavier, risky. I don't get the appeal.
It doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. And then they went and completely ruined it in World. Like in World, normally I would not be referring to World as frequently as I am. The only reason why I am is because I actually played it recently. For the first time in 7 years, I actually played it about 2 weeks ago. And like literally hadn't touched it since 2019, mid-2019. Iceborne hadn't come out on PC yet when I uninstalled that game for the last time. And I do mean uninstalled for the last time. Not installed, uninstalled for the last time. I uninstalled it like twice before I finally let go in 2019. And yeah, I was shocked to find that the switch axe in that game, not shocked this time, but shocked when I first experienced it, that it had become less precise and extremely immobile. It was just, they took a weapon type which, in my opinion, felt pretty unpleasant to use already, and then just dialed it up to the maximum degree of discomfort. It was just the wrong way to approach it. I understand why they did it. It was a form of balancing to lower the mobility of the hunter with sword mode out. And obviously they were going for something a bit more dynamic with the movements of the weapon, and that is the reason why it was less accurate, and you'd be swinging it all over the place. But in my opinion, it just wasn't the right vision for the weapon. It did not improve the weapon. It changed it, but it didn't improve it. I think I did completely miss my Wyvern Fire, just for the record. I had to go back and check to make sure that I definitely still only had my top screen visible. Glad I'm out of the range of that. Of course, you have to be aware of that blast status there.
Yeah, see it.
Sometimes you do just completely forget about it.
I'm looking for a mount here. There you go. Get his ass.
I sadly was not able to. Next one, I think. Oh, very good.
Oh, we got him now.
Not quite the stuck in the wall that you would get from the regular Tigrex. Maybe that wasn't solid enough to get him stuck. Wonder if it's worth sharpening up. Yeah.
I've got time.
No, I won't. Think so? Alright, I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah. Go now, go now, go now.
Oh, I've got speed sharpening on this set, so I definitely had enough time. I'll give you the head, I'll mess about around.
I'm just gonna go for a knockout.
There you go, got my knockdown. Or did you knock him out? No, I knocked him down.
No, it wasn't a knockout. I'm going for one, though. He got me big. I might be dead. Oh, I survived.
Yeah, it was the right thing to go off to the side like that. Oh. So that's a great example of how getting blasted can be so dangerous, because if he had chained me there, that would have been most of my health gone.
Yeah, he's definitely big enough that being too close to him when he's in that state is pretty dangerous.
Oh my god. Stamina! My stamina barely survived there, and if it did not survive, I would not have survived. Scary shit. Oh no, 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 don't you do... Really, really miscalculated that one. I shouldn't have dived at all. I was not actually in a position where I needed the iframes. What I instead did was made myself completely inert at the crucial moment. And so I died. Whatever.
We're fine, we're doing good.
Maybe not good. Maybe we're doing well enough would be the better... Oh! I just drank one of my very limited supply max potions instead of drinking the easy max potion that was included in the box. That was a huge miscalculation.
Oh, I just realized I did the same thing.
Yeah. I think I've only got one more now.
Just make sure you use it.
Yeah, just to make myself feel a little better.
He's coming for me. I'm just healing. Yeah, try and give him some space. Are you running any type of like stamina increase on that set?
No.
Tough.
Well,
May I have a knockdown, please?
there are rations included in the box, so I'm doing fine.
Okay.
Jezza, I am using a DualShock 4 controller. So, yeah. Hence the
I'm using a
PlayStation
DualShock
buttons.
5 controller. A DualSense controller.
Yeah, DualSense is what it's called.
I
Disgusting.
like it more for Monster Hunter. It feels better for Monster Hunter.
I'm guessing none of that
it's
haptic feedback
weightier.
is actually compatible.
No, not as of right now. Although I'm sure that somebody has made a pack for that.
Maybe not for all PC games. It might have to be game specific for that one. I could be wrong, but... And because it would be game specific, it would therefore be almost impossible to expect something like that to be introduced for 4 Ultimate on Citra. But anyway.
Alright, I'm in huge trouble right now. I need to put this weapon away ASAP. Your danger is my safety, for sure.
Well, it's getting pretty ugly here. And I almost... Well, I'm not going to say that I made the same mistake twice. It's more that... The way that I died was the same, but my choice to dive felt a bit more justified this time around. I think I was a bit fucked no matter what.
I think that we can beat him
We can definitely beat
with
him.
what we've got. We just needed
well-
a good idea of like where we were safe and where we were overcommitting.
Yeah.
Although you might want to run a standard lance with something that like raises the amount of... I don't know if this is something that exists in this game because I'm using more recent references, but something that raises the economy of your stamina so that you can take more hits.
Well, there are such things. So you've got different stamina skills. You've either got... What's it called? Marathon Runner will affect the amount of stamina consumed when your stamina is being constantly drained. So, for example, a demonized mode on dual blades. And then the other one is... Oh, what is the other one? I know there's stamina recovery up, and then there's also stamina plus, maybe? Stamina plus being for single consumptions, so like a roll or an evasion. And then I think there's the actual recovery speed, so there's like 3 different stamina skills. But yeah, I'm fine. I don't really need more stamina than that. I was just... What needs to change is my stamina management, not my available stamina. I will trade from Gunlance, though. I'm not really feeling like I'm in a Gunlance mood. And then I use a switch axe, seeing as though I was bad-mouthing it before.
Yeah, if you want to take something that's immobile and then switch to something that's more mobile, sure.
I completely disagree that the switch axe is less immobile. Or, sorry, less mobile.
That was just me talking smack. I know it's better in these games.
It's much better. It's got kind of similar mobility to the longsword, but doesn't have a sort of fade slash of any kind. Yeah, that's my only water switch axe. That's fine. This works for me. This is one of my favorite
Who is
sets in the
that?
series. Who is what?
Who's that sword? Who's that?
That is
switch axe?
Darren Moran.
No kidding.
So pretty much all of Darren Moran's weapons are water, I think.
That's weird considering he's like a sand whale.
Maybe it's his spit.
Must be.
He salivates a lot. Alright. Round 2.
Is he immune to traps?
No. The problem is that he is in a location where you can't set traps, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that. We'll find out.
Yeah. I'm ready. Yeah, I feel like I'm item poor in this game. I haven't got anywhere near the resources I do in Generations Ultimate. But to be fair, that file is 100 years old.
Yeah. Of course, you would actually carried over your Generations save into Generations Ultimate, so you'd have a little bit more foundation in your character there.
Which makes me very happy, by the way. That the fact that that's a classic file that I played on a console, like, just warms my heart.
Yeah. It is nice. It's one of the good things about old Monster Hunter and indeed JRPGs. They have sort of continued that with the way they do it as an expansion now instead of as a separate game. It's just the modern version of how they originally did it, where you would begin a high rank save file and then move into G rank with the same character. But yeah, so I shouldn't say that it's unique to traditional Monster Hunter, but definitely a good thing. Gives your character a little bit more longevity, you know? And of course it goes right back to the original Monster Hunter one.
You make him choose.
Ah, that's right. You have to alternate between triangle and circle here. I was going to say X and A, but then I realised that I've actually gone to the extent of changing the appearance of my buttons here, so...
He's got his eyes on me. Nice dodge.
He's very forgiving with his hitboxes. Because he's quite large and he's got a lot of open space between his arms and his body. Sort of feeling my wrist right now. Gamer joint. Oh, fuck.
I mistimed that pretty severely.
He has taken very little interest in me thus far.
Why did you say gamer joint?
What do you mean? Why not?
Well, that's a YouTuber. I'm wondering if you know who that is.
No. No, gamer joint is some like old term for playing too many games. And then you've got like sore joints as a result. As far as I know.
Oh, copy. You're talking about your wrist.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because the gamer's joint is a Kingdom Hearts Australian YouTuber.
Oh, right. No, I do not know that person. Although I have promised to play Kingdom Hearts for you. For those watching at home, Ethan is a Kingdom Hearts enthusiast of sorts. At least he was. And I've promised that I'll play... I promised I'll play the original game at some point. I'll get it on PlayStation 2. I've been advised that there are other options for experiencing the first game, but I'm a bit of a purist, so I'll play it on PS2. I was going to explain something. Can't remember what now. Oh yeah. Jezza asks what my favorite Monster Hunter game is. It's definitely 3 Ultimate. That's not for lack of criticism on my part towards 3 Ultimate. Oh my god. I really must do better than this.
Slime, all day.
I must do better than this. Yeah, so Ethan touches on one of the pretty obvious criticisms of the game. That is slime. There are also others. Many others. Chief among them, for me, being the charm table, and the fact that the charm table does not change. Normally, a charm table... So, we'll get back to basics just to explain the entire thing. A charm table is a group of charms that you can possibly get when you finish a quest. When you load into the game, you will have a charm table selected almost pretty much at random. It's not technically random because you can control it. But for a person who does not know really about that back-end system, it is essentially at random. And, yeah, it's not actually going to change at any time in
How
3
did that
Ultimate.
happen?
Once you've made your character, that's it. I don't know how that happened. But yeah,
I had
it's...
so much health.
Yeah, that is a very strong attack. You sure you weren't blast blighted?
I'm pretty sure. I might have been, I guess.
Would explain the one-shot. But yeah, for me, the fact that you would create a character and then end up on a table that was really quite bad, like you just wouldn't get very good talismans and there was nothing you could do about it, that was just inexcusable. Just really, really bad. Terrible game design. I still don't know if it was intentional or not, but that was horrific. And then you also had the fact that the Wii U version was a pretty terrible port. Performance issues, the textures were half-assed in a lot of places. It was just not a good HD port. I suppose I could argue that the 3... I am not performing right now, and that needs to change. I think I'm being distracted by my own criticisms of my favourite Monster Hunter game, but seriously. Lots of things were done wrong with 3 Ultimate, but at the end of the day, I feel that 3 Ultimate has all of what I enjoy in a Monster Hunter game as well. Has it in large doses. At the end of the day, every Monster Hunter game has something that's quite wrong with it. And I
That's
suppose
fair. I've never really thought about it like that.
it's also correct to say that the more you enjoy a particular game, the more glaringly obvious its faults will become. So... definitely need to get some damage out here. I feel like I haven't been very effective. I've been playing rather subconsciously here because I've been getting caught on these discussions. Which is always good. We want discussion, but I feel like I need to actually switch on a little bit for this fight. Maybe I shouldn't be gathering Wyvern Tears just after talking about upping my game. Noob gather.
There's just not a lot of window of attack opportunity for him.
It comes and goes. There are moments where he really is a bit relentless and is constantly running around. I feel like when he's vulnerable, he's really vulnerable though, usually. Oh no, I'm blasted. No! See how quickly that comes out as well? I'm staying on the ground. But yeah, after doing that mounting attack, obviously the timing was really unfortunate, but just
He's
the speed with
exhausted.
which... Yeah, okay. It looks like you can trap here, so I will drop a pitfall. I must have been thinking of another area where you can't drop traps.
We
think
did
the
break
other
his
two-
head if we want to end via subquest.
Nah, not necessary.
Let me in there.
Bit annoying to have that head moving around so much.
I just bounced. That's no good. Let me hit you. Big damage?
Looked a bit like it.
Alright, he's going to bounce back. I'm going to go sharpen.
Don't know why I thought I could roll through that. Bit
Don't look at
overconfident.
me. He's looking at me.
Oh. There's definitely a solid argument for Freedom Unite being the best Monster Hunter game. I could definitely agree with that. It was, without a doubt, the most polished of the old Monster Hunter games.
It's
Proper
also the
old.
one that has the most Monster Hunter atmosphere. Like whatever atmosphere Monster Hunter is, that game captures it beautifully.
I'd argue the atmosphere was pretty much the same across all of Generation 1 and 2, and Freedom Unite just ends up being the most accessible and, as I say, polished version of that, without it being different in any fundamental way.
Oh, I gotta get out.
There is definitely a small cohort of people who find that Freedom Unite is a little bit too easy, or a little bit too accessible, believe it or not. But I think that, for the most part, it's agreed that it's a pretty good expression of Generations 1 and 2, all neatly packed into one game. Fuck me sideways, just the idea. It's because you were... I wasn't watching where you were. He was positioning himself onto you, and I had evaded quite a lot, only to have him reposition right onto me anyway.
Is your cat out here?
No, it's done. Well, recovering.
Oh my gosh.
I need to...
I hope I get 2 Conqueror Seals here.
I'm not in good form today. I'm not actually responding to the monster adequately. Basically,
Alright,
I'm not
that's the last
learning the
one.
lessons. There are many lessons to be learnt from fighting this monster. And what the fuck? I was not
He's
expecting
very-
that.
He's very close to being dead.
I think so. I was not expecting another straight run. He gets into these modes where he just keeps moving around like that. And just doesn't stop in those tight turns. He's got very tight turns. Regular Tigrex doesn't have those really tight turns. Okay, almost used my max potion again. Anyway, personal criticism at the moment of my play is that I'm making the same mistakes repeatedly. Admittedly, that's because I'm just not... Yeah, I'm not in good form right now. Just playing like shit. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the same scenarios unfolding. And it's because I'm not adapting to what I'm learning while fighting the monster. So, just have to try better. Try a little harder. Also got speed sharpening on this set, which is refreshing.
Bro, how do you hit me there? Quick turn.
And I suppose I'm being too aggressive as well. I keep getting caught in this shit because I'm taking risks that are not sensible. Now that, I regret to say, because it sounds a little bit wishy-washy, but that was connection. That was the connection. He basically shifted slightly in my direction while running, which he would not have been able to do, except through some sort of connection adjustment. Or lag, basically. See, I can't actually go in there and do anything to him. And look at that, even when I'm not engaging him, he still puts me in danger. Awful monster. Well, challenging monster is what I mean.
Yeah, it's hard to know when you're safe to do anything. Because he has so many options that he can cancel out into.
I'm just about out of healing.
Me too. I've got 5 regular potions left.
It's more than me.
A knockdown would be fucking beneficial right now.
I'll try for it.
You,
See if he does a
you
follow-up.
missed, bitch.
He did a follow-up.
There it
you
is.
go.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and farm that. Fuck off.
Don't do a second one. Bastard. What am I doing? It's because I couldn't see my character properly there, so I was losing sight of my timing. Nicely done.
Thank you.
We survived, but yeah. Of course, I've got plenty of loadouts that could drop this guy really quickly, but that's no fun at all.
I feel like that's the way Monster Hunter is supposed to be right there.
15 minutes of you at the edge of your fucking seat, just like not knowing if you even have it in you to win.
Yep. That's it.
And for the people out there that make because every time you complain about like new Monster Hunters getting easier, you'll be like, yeah, Monster Hunter Wilds is getting a lot easier. It's kind of ridiculous how easy it is, something like that. There's always this like cavalcade of people who, by the way, probably never played the original games, who are just like, Monster Hunter's not getting easy, you just got better. And it's like, bro, I just got fucking mollywopped by a Tigrex. Like, what do you mean? Like, I go back and I play these games and they're hard. Like, they're just hard. Like, I don't know, you're talking out of your ass.
Yeah.
Like, if I was using my charge blade from Wilds here, I would beat that guy like he wasn't shit. But I don't have access to that, so it's the balancing is like way different.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. People are just full of shit. They're just, oh, you're just better. It's like, yes, while that's true, it's also true that the game has gotten easier. Fucking
Well, look,
dingleberry.
I sort of take it from a different perspective. I think that it's singularly unhelpful to have a conversation about difficulty in the context of how Monster Hunter has changed. Yeah, you can describe some of the, like for example, Ethan, when you talk about how Monster Hunter has changed, you can summarize that as saying that this is a difficulty conversation, but you shouldn't just use that as a statement. Like, it should never be a statement that the game has gotten easier, because that's only true in some ways. It's a much more nuanced conversation than that, and when people get into these really low-level squabbles about, oh, is Monster Hunter harder or easier now, it completely misses the point, and it completely takes people out of the conversations that should be had about where streamlining has taken place, where difficulty has been added, and if the difficulty that is in 5th and 6th gen are actually good examples of difficulty. So, I mean, when it comes to 6th, by the sounds of it, sounds a little better than 5th, but in 5th, a lot of it was because of how strong they made the Hunter. So a lot of the way they added difficulty to the game, in my opinion, was not as inspired or creative as these games. But then you can also come back with the counter argument that, well, look at, say, 1st and 2nd gen Fatality, just get on all fours and kill you instantly, or walk in a straight line and kill you instantly, so that wasn't exactly creative either. But this is what I mean. These are the conversations you want to be having, not, the game's easy, the game's hard. That is fucking unpleasant to listen to and frustrates me. So yeah, on the one hand, I think they are wrong to say that, for example, the game's not getting easier, you're just getting better. I also think that the whole conversation is a bit of a waste of time at that level. So I don't.
Yeah, if
I don't
there's
hold it
one thing
against
I
them.
wish that you had gotten out of playing Worlds, it's a relationship with Elatrion and Fatalis, so I could have learned how you felt about them. Because you never
Yeah.
really played against them. You never really gave that a shot. And I would have been happy to hear how you felt about that particular decision on manufacturing difficulty. Because that seems to be the direction they're going now, where it's like you have like your general hunts, which are for the most part you can probably get through without too much trouble. Especially if you're someone with experience. But like, don't get me wrong, there's gonna be like smooth brain people out there that get filtered by like, you know, a Congalala or something like that. I don't know, just people that can't get their head around the fight, or they overcommit, or they just don't know how to manage their items or whatever. They come to the hunt unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of took a direction after Behemoth that weirdly I liked and feel like I want more of it, which is this idea that like there are elements of the fights that are fights like any normal Monster Hunter fight, and then there's like a puzzle element to it. Like I wish that they had done this more actually in Wilds, but like the idea that there's MMO elements to it, where there's a mechanic to the fight that once you learn it, because we're never going to get back to this, what we're doing now, which is like the hunter's just flat out outpaced by the monster, and the only way you can beat it is by having a knowledge of the monster that is so good, or be reactive enough and adaptable enough in any given situation that you can survive it anyway. So the way that they manufacture difficulty with Elatrion and Behemoth and Fatalis is they kind of give this like this MMO type of difficulty to the game. And I think that you playing that and trying it out is something that I really wish that I could have seen.
Yeah. It may yet happen, just not now. I got so close to doing it because I wasn't going to get Wilds immediately no matter what, because I don't have a machine to play it. But if I did decide that I wanted to play Wilds, the step up to that would have been playing Iceborne. And look, to be honest, if I'm not going to do Wilds, I don't really want to do Iceborne either. I'm not going to completely write off the possibility that I'll play it in the future, but I'm not. Yeah. In other words, the principle is the same. I don't want to invest time into Wilds right now, therefore, I don't want to invest time into World. And yeah, from what I recall, you didn't like Fatalis because of how he felt like this MMO fight, which I don't completely understand. But in other words,
when I say MMO fight, you're not like it's not putting something together for you.
well, the last time that you described something as an MMO was when we played Dauntless, and you became so thoroughly disgusted with the game that you just basically walked out. You were just like, nah, can't do it.
When I say MMO fight, what I mean is that, so you're right, there are elements of Fatalis that I don't like, and there are elements of Elatrion that frustrate me, but you got to understand those are coming from someone who hasn't beaten Fatalis yet.
Oh, okay.
And someone who hasn't really beaten Elatrion solo yet. So it's like, with Elatrion, they added this element where it's like you really can only win if you're taking an element, and then you have to target parts during certain times of the fight that if they don't break, you don't win. Like, you literally automatically lose. So I didn't like that element of it. I wish that they had reeled that back, because I don't like
that, no.
Right, I don't like a lockout. Like, if you don't meet a certain damage threshold on a certain part of the monster, then you are automatically not meeting the damage ceiling. So that I didn't like. But I do like the idea of like, hey, this monster is only effective to certain types of weapons, but you wouldn't know that the very first time you interact with it. You would have to like kind of learn that and figure that out. The idea of solving a monster is something that I really like. And Fatalis is the same way. The only reason that I got frustrated with Fatalis is because there's literal armor skills in the game that like increase your fire resistance, increase your blast resistance, increase your defense, increase your guard up. And it doesn't matter what armor skills you have, they seem to be relatively meaningless in that fight.
Yeah.
Like it's just I would get hit by fire breath and it would take 85% of my health. And I'm wearing max armor. So it's like I think they got a little lost in the sauce when it came to like how much damage he could do per hit. It's just failed economy stuff because of the fact that they have trouble balancing against how mobile the monsters are, the monster hunters are, as well as the idea of infinite restocks. That's difficult for them to balance against. They haven't really figured that out yet. And I'm not certain that they will, because I don't think that they're ever going to go back to something. I don't know. Wilds might get really hard because the community has been, like, almost everyone in the community, except for like a couple of people, like, you know, the general, like, they buy every game that comes out, normal gamer who doesn't give a shit about like people's opinions about their favorite video game of the year or the month. So they don't seek it out. They don't watch content on it. They play it for exactly what it is. They might get through low rank and then quit the game. A lot of people have been complaining about the difficulty being too low. So Capcom is about to teach us a lesson, I think, with this new level above tempered, which I think that they're just going to make arch tempered a standard spawn on, like, a spawn status or modifier for any type of monster, which is going to increase their speed, their attack, their health, you know, everything. And I think that they've had this stuff in the chamber. I think that they were waiting to hear people talk about the difficulty, but they had these fights already designed, because as soon as anyone started talking about it online, they had a response. They were just like, okay, we've got a new level of difficulty coming your way. And I was just like, damn, you had a ready-made pizza? Like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And they're dropping Mizutsune as the very first free update, which I'm super excited for because I love the Fated 4. Absolutely fucking adore the Fated 4. Yeah, I don't think that you can go wrong with those two things. Like, give me an arch-tempered Mizutsune. New armor skills get added to the end game. It's gonna be nice. It'll be nice. I think Wilds is gonna be, by the end of Wilds, it's probably going to be my second favorite Monster Hunter game of all time.
Well, that's a roaring endorsement.
Yeah.
Especially considering what came before it, because I mean, those of you who are familiar with me will know how manifestly dismissive and completely disenchanted I am with Rise. I mean, I shouldn't even say disenchanted. It makes it sound as if there was ever a chance that I was going to like it. No, I mean, Rise was a fucking blowout. It has no worth. It just has no worth. That's how strong I feel about it. And Ethan is a much more optimistic person than me. I think Ethan largely came to the same conclusion as me, but was not prepared to accept it quite so quickly. For me, it took about 2 weeks of playing the base game of Rise for me to realize that I would never play it again. It was just shocking to me. Absolutely shocking. But Ethan just kept on going back for more. Kept on going back for more. Got it on PC. Gave it an absolutely fair shake. And, I mean, remind me how you feel about it, Ethan, but last I heard you were pretty disappointed.
Rise is something unique in that, for one, there is... Hold on, I'm getting a call on Discord.
Oh, okay.
Give me 1 second, I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm in the unenviable position of using rapid pierce shots solo. You would never see me using rapid against a when I say rapid, I mean rapid fire. you would never see me using rapid fire in solo, and the reason why is because you become so vulnerable when you're shooting rapid. It's just... you're stuck in one place for just a little bit too long. It's something that, for me, I'm much more comfortable using when I have a distraction. Now, technically, my cat is a distraction, but is it enough of one? We'll have to find out. I suspect that against this monster, it's going to be fairly punishing. He moves around a lot. Oh, very nice. I'll take that. Now, what probably would have better served me in this fight is a silencer. If only for the reason that I would be able to shoot Pierce level 3 without so much recoil. That's important for me in this fight, because I do not have anything in the way of combination materials for either Pierce level 1, Pierce level 2, or Pierce level 3. It's fucking shocking. Like, my inventory, like my box, I should say, my stash, just has nothing in it. I am resource poor in this game, and it's because of the Wycoon and the way the Wycoon works. I don't know why. Something about me and the Wycoon don't get along. I don't like the way the Wycoon looks at me or something. And ever since then, we've been off on the wrong foot. I take it you're back, Ethan? Perhaps not. I guess he's talking to someone on Discord. Must be important. Whatever it is. Oh. I also have normal shots here. Yeah, Jazza makes the point that I will never be as poor in terms of resources in this game as I would be in Monster Hunter in the first generation. That is another level of just having absolutely nothing to your name. You are just scraping by. It is a fucking survival game in first generation, 100%. Anyway, welcome back, Ethan.
Thanks, buddy. So I guess to elaborate on my point in Rise, because the whole time I was about to answer, I was getting a call in Discord and trying to figure that out. Rise was very much intended, from my perspective, to be a largely handheld experience where I don't think that they knew they were going to put it on PC. I think it was meant to be on Switch, and it was designed to be on Switch, and it was designed for a mix of the Western player that doesn't largely have the patience for learning new systems and challenging themselves, and so they added these gimmicks to it, these very cool, like, anime-esque, like, if it were any other game playing the way that game played, like, you would probably enjoy it. Like, most people would probably enjoy it. Yeah. It's only because it had the name Monster Hunter on it that it's like, okay, this is frustrating, because this is very obviously not Monster Hunter. And it got some things right. It got a lot wrong. I would say the stuff that it got wrong was the absurd amount of visual pollution in the game, the constant need to be engaging with endemic life, the absurd lack of difficulty throughout the village quests. I mean, absolutely absurd, to the point of being, like, disrespectful. The weird scale of the monsters, that seemed off too.
As in, like,
the siege
the physical
mode,
signs of the monsters.
Yes, the siege mode, I think, was inspired. I don't think it was good, but I think it was inspired. I think it was them trying something new, and I respect that. I respect that they were trying something new, and I respect that they tried really hard to make something that was interesting and fun for people to play. It was just the forced gimmicking gets really difficult for people to contend with, because an old school hunter, anyone who comes from 4 and plays Rise, right, or Generations Ultimate and plays Rise, and they see the wire bug, is immediately going to be like, okay, this is, like, not even close to the same game.
Yeah.
And there's not really anything that you can do about that except for like you either adapt and you adjust and you just play it for what it is, you meet the game where it's at, or you don't. The problem is meeting that game where it is not quite the same as somebody meeting a Monster Hunter game like this where it is, because like this one largely follows in the footsteps of 3. 3 largely follows in the footsteps of Portable Third and Try. Try largely follows in the footsteps of Freedom Unite, and then Freedom Unite to DOS, etc. They're all very respectful of one another. They're all very, very obviously one big game that's being extended from, it's a live service game that had multiple different games released because there wasn't a model for it the way that we know it today. Rise and World were the first big departures because they were trying to attract a new audience, which again, I don't really have beef with that, and I learned to like World on a lot of levels. I thought it was imperfect, obviously, and they did a lot of stuff wrong as well, but there is an evolution of the weapons that I thought was very positive. And if they could have just figured out, like, it's funny too, because if they would just stop giving the player so many resources, like a cat that heals you or gives you buffs, like,
Yeah.
if they would just let it be like, oh yeah, now your hunter has like more mobility, and then you just give the monsters more mobility to match that, then you have this like nice mix between, because one of the big things that players who do like Rise, the thing they like about it is that it plays closer to like a fighting game. The monster is this counter machine where it throws attacks at you and patterns at you, and you have the ability to counter it or dodge it, and it's very cinematic and anime. So especially in late game, which once you get into, I'm going to be honest with you, I bet you anything, had I played further into Sunbreak, I might have liked Rise more.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, once I got into G rank and I fought the first couple of monsters, I was like, I'm just so exhausted with how this game feels. It feels like there's no real challenge. It's all just a matter of time spent.
It just felt like nothing. I felt like a tourist in the game. It just...
Yeah.
There's no real immersion for me because I couldn't I couldn't even build the groundworks for establishing a connection with the game because of the things that you've described. And, you know, when you're playing online, these things are compounded further. The visual pollution that you described, to, you know, expand on that a little bit, he's referring to, you know, the fact that you've got these really visually intense effects every time you hit the monster. You've got the dogs flying around, all of that shit. And then multiply it by 4 in some cases when you're hunting with 4 people. It turns into a complete shit show. And then you're flying around as well. It's beyond chaotic. It's just, to me, I can't connect with that. You've lost me. And then on top of that, that is supposed to be where you're deriving your satisfaction with the game. There's absolutely no hit stun, like hit lag, where the flow of the fight changes slightly with the sheer impact of your powerful hit on the weak monster part. No, there's none of that. Your weapon just feels like nothing. But what feels great is, oh, I'm flying around. Look at me dodging these things. Look at me with my heavy bowgun that's supposed to have limited mobility, but I've got this wire bug flying all over the place. It's just, to me, misses the point. It definitely was on a journey to achieve something as a video game, but it wasn't to be a Monster Hunter game, not in my opinion, as Ethan says. It's just like...
And another, the big thing that really gets me is that, like, Rise is the very first time I ever played the multiplayer of a Monster Hunter game. Like, World felt a little dead in this way, where it was like sometimes the players would just be so good that they would be like stun locking a monster into oblivion. This can happen in World, but it's rare. It's more rare. because the monsters they were a little more dynamic, and they did have a little bit more like power relative. Like they could keep up with the hunters to some degree. Rise, this was not a thing. This was really not a thing. It was just 4 hunters, and I still remember fighting a baggie, and it just being a literal damage sponge and sitting there while a bunch of people did really cool anime-esque moves that the monster didn't have any. It didn't have a chance. There was no. This thing wasn't carding anybody because it was just 4 people who had way more mobility, way more power, way more options than this monster, which lacked the capacity to be a meaningful threat to the player. And people play that, and if they don't know any better because they've never played this, where the very first time you go up against a great Jaggy, you can get carded. Like twice, 3 times. You can fail a great Jaggy quest if you're not paying attention. If you don't know what he's going to do, if you don't learn him, you can fail that. But a brand new player can walk into Rise, go play the multiplayer. Like, think about the fact that me and Doom just sat there playing against a Molten Tigrex. He and I are both, I would say, probably top 20, top 15% hunters in the world when it comes to what we know and what we can do.
I didn't feel like I was playing at that level at that time, just to be clear, but yeah, I'll go along with that.
That's fine, but the point is that like we're probably at the top of the game to an extent, and that monster, even though we're in multiplayer where we should be gaining an advantage, took us everything we could to beat it.
Yeah.
This is the exchange that is meant to be had in an online multiplayer like Monster Hunter, because a lot of what you gain in a community like that, one of the reasons why the community is a huge part of Monster Hunter is the shared achieving of goals. It's the shared, like, we got past a wall. We don't know each other, but I know that you beat Tiger Stripe Zamtrios, and you know that I beat Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. There's a mutual respect there. And that builds community. That builds community, and it also creates an incentive for like players to go back and help other players, because once you feel like you're good at something, you want to teach it. You want to bring people in and like get them involved in this thing that you love and that you changed for and that you learned for. And that is wholly absent in Rise. It's not entirely absent in World. World has it to an extent. I would say to a factor of maybe 80%, where this game has it at 100%, and every game prior has it at 100%. But yeah. Rise, it's just gone. The monsters are damage sponges that just sit there, and every now and then it'll hit a player. It might even cart one person, but like there's not any real chance that you're going to fail. And it's because the player is just got too many resources and the monster just has too few. And they don't seem to know either that. If they do know, they're not willing to do it. They don't want, I think that they want the win rate of the player to be farther from the 50-50 feeling of like, damn, like I'm geared up and I don't know if I can beat this. I think that they would prefer that a very low experience player feel about really easy monsters the way we just felt about Tigrex. That's what they want. They want the brand new player to get this feeling that we just got from Tigrex on any monster in the game. Meanwhile, for us, the only way that we ever get that kind of feeling again is if we like create artificial constraints on ourselves. And that seems to be their answer to us also. If you say something like, oh, well, the cat is broken and it heals you every 2 seconds, and it shouldn't because this undermines the potion system, they'll say, well, then don't bring the cat. And it's like, well, that's stupid, because the whole point of a Monster Hunter game if you actually played any of the older ones, it's using the resources that you have available to you to overcome a challenge that is very obviously bigger than you. And I refuse to believe that they're incapable of creating a set of challenges and hunt and monsters that are bigger than me. If they were to take the graphics of Wilds and release a game that played largely like this and put focus mode in it and didn't change anything else and made the monsters just a little bit faster and a little bit stronger, it would be the greatest Monster Hunter game that anyone had ever played. It just has to be this game with better graphics, focus mode, and faster monsters. That would be the best game, the best Monster Hunter game anyone had ever played. But they just don't. They are not okay with how difficult it is to get new players to commit to learning the systems.
And
I mean,
of course,
you and
the
I know how
abandonment.
difficult this is too.
Yeah, the abandonment of that method of designing the game has paid dividends for them. You know, the direction that they've taken very clearly to ingratiate new players into this system has resulted in huge success for them, so they would never walk away from that. You can understand why they would be very concerned about possibly losing the huge boon that World and Rise had in getting people involved. But yeah, they need to do better with it. Well, I shouldn't say they need to do better. I think they might have figured out a way to continue doing that whilst striking the balance a little better in Wilds, from what you've said. But still, Rise, I suppose we're speaking historically at this point on the subject of Rise, because things have now moved on from there. That is not the future of the series. That is now just a footnote, a pretty, excrement-stained footnote in the history of Monster Hunter. But yeah, they definitely dropped the ball on that game. Of course, a lot of what you mentioned, Ethan, traditional Monster Hunter versus new Monster Hunter in 5th generation and 6th, not all of it is completely absent from those games where it was present in traditional Monster Hunter, but definitely the way that you're getting further away from it, the connection between the hunter and the games, the hunter and the monsters as well. It's just, we are getting further away from it.
Well, I will say there are certain things that Capcom is absolutely right to change, and I think that they've made the right choice in many ways, because I will say, you and I both know how difficult it is to get someone who's never played Monster Hunter to look at this, what we're playing right now, and see appeal. We've both been that person that has grandfathered somebody into a Monster Hunter game, and every person in this chat has also done the same thing, where they tried to get somebody to play Monster Hunter with them because how much they love it. But selling someone something on a serotonin relationship is way harder than selling somebody on a dopamine relationship, which is kind of the direction they've gone. And I think that they're trying to do dopamine early, serotonin late. So they do a dopamine relationship in the beginning of the content and then a serotonin in the late, which is what I experienced with Endgame and World, where you could have a relationship with like, okay, I'm actually getting my ass kicked and I need to change how I play. I need to grow and overcome, because some of these fights are really just that hard. Even in the multiplayer. So World did get some things right. Rise didn't in what I played, but in Sunbreak it might have eventually. I don't know. Wilds feels like the chosen one to me, that kind of is like an answer for Capcom of like, hey, instead of you having to go to a website like Kiriniko or gameinfo.com or some nonsense like that, so that you can see what this monster is weak against, or so that you can figure out how a certain item works or where to get a drop. Like, these are things that always should have been in the game, but we as older players, we just kind of got used to seeking them from third parties like that was normal. And that's one of those things where it's like, they've made positive changes and they deserve credit where credit's due. And I will always say, like, I do appreciate some of the changes that they've made. I just wish that they would lean more into things that allowed you to earn that type of information. Like, you have all of these incredible systems, like the item system where you do all this crafting and stuff like this is really good, but then they give you such access to all of this crafting stuff that there's no real need to engage in going to get any of this stuff. It all just kind of winds up in your box over time. Like, I can't tell you, I'm sitting here with 0 well done steaks.
Oh, that's my fault for not freaking giving them to you after I said I would.
No, but you're not. What I'm making a point. My point
Yeah, I
is
know.
like this game isn't just gonna hand me stuff so that it's an easier experience for me. It's like, okay, you want stuff, go get stuff.
Yeah. And really, the
that is
first game
something
where
that
they...
can't be understated.
Yeah, the first time they experimented with just absolutely shoveling free shit into your box was Monster Hunter Generations, and probably Generations Ultimate, but I suspect it would have been Generations, just my memory of that is a little bit vaguer. But definitely, Generations Ultimate, periodically you just get these free packs of items when the game came out. And the thing is, those packs were not limited time. People who, like, let's say for instance you picked the game up in the first month, well, you'd have a pack of free shit here, and then a few months later a new pack of free shit, maybe not even that much time would pass. But the person who then plays the game 6 months down the line will have access to all of that all at once. It's part of the downloadable content of the game. You just get your box filled with free items. A shortcut to the basis of, you know, a healthy box for any hunter. Instead of actually working to make that yourself, in Generations Ultimate, that was just quite literally given to you. That was the first indication of where Capcom was heading in for this sort of thing. And you can understand why it's tempting to take a shortcut to the enjoyable things. But for me, and one of the, I guess, lazy expressions I give for why I don't like the current direction of Monster Hunter is that it doesn't seem to get the spirit of Monster Hunter correct. Now, to explain part of what the spirit of Monster Hunter is, it is actually having to work to achieve what you have. You know, getting free shit, handouts, and then possibly even removing it completely instead of changing the way you get it, in my opinion, detracts from the spirit of Monster Hunter. So,
And right, you are. And I'll give you a perfect example. Is fishing in Monster Hunter fun?
no.
Should it be in Monster Hunter?
I think it should be. You just figure
Okay.
out a different way to do it.
I fully agree. If fishing is not fun, but we agree it should be in Monster Hunter because it's an element of something that someone in a world like this would do, why don't we make fishing fun? Why don't we spend time developing that minigame? Oh, well, we don't like farming. The farm was hard. Okay. How about we make a farm that works and that is interesting to engage with? Harvest Moon could do it. Why is it that we can't take systems like this and add them to the game and make the experience more meaningful? Why is it instead we just either remove it or worse, leave it in there in a completely arbitrary, pointless, you don't have to engage with it state? I don't understand that mentality. It's like, I think that's the thing about 5th gen and on that you and I probably struggle with the most, is that, like, they attach themselves to, like, well, there's certain stuff that makes a Monster Hunter game a Monster Hunter game. It's like, okay, you're on the right path. What are those things? Well, there has to be fishing in the game. Okay, we can agree on that. There should be fishing in the game. Okay, so we're just going to put fishing in the game. All right. Well, are you going to change anything about it? No, it's going to play exactly the way it did in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. Okay, well, that fishing sucks. Like, nobody likes that. Well, we don't really want to change it.
Yeah.
We just want to put it in there so people can't say that we're not deviating too far from the formula.
Or perhaps they're attached to the idea of it being there, but don't want to take responsibility for the fact that no one likes it.
Ding, ding, ding. That is exactly right. Like, it boils down to they don't want to wander too far from what they think of as the accepted formula. Like, do you think that anybody It's funny because the Monster Hunter community is very defensive of all of the things that they like and dislike, and I guarantee you, like they probably have it in their head that if they changed fishing, there would be a public outcry against it.
Yeah. Well, this is what it means to have confidence in your own game design, and I think again, a lot of what we say has to be caveated with the following, and that is that it applies mostly to 5th generation. There are elements of these criticisms present in the way Wilds plays, but some of this has been addressed in Wilds, but seriously, like for example, I was about to say, they need to have the confidence to, really figure out a vision and stick to it and know that it's the right thing to do. They've definitely gone more in that direction with Wilds, hence the reason why it feels so different. But yeah, I guess it's weakness of conviction almost. It's where leadership comes in. You have to, and perhaps for them the leadership was to decide, okay, let's just completely get rid of it. But to me, I feel like that's backing down from the fight rather than addressing the issue.
Yeah, it's fear is what it is. They're like, they know that, and it's our fault to an extent because there's people like us who are always very hypercritical of the new games that come out. But then, like, that makes them feel like they can't do something like change fishing or get rid of fishing if it's not good. Because, like, that they would prefer not to put fishing in the game. Because it's fucking lame, and nobody likes doing it. Nobody likes doing it. Everybody leaves the fishing quest undone.
Yeah.
Because you don't get a lot out of it. And then they give you a way to get around it with the fucking capture net. So it's weird, man. Like, they create these systems, and then they're like, well, it has to be here because it was in the old ones, and we'll get yelled at if we take it out. And then they create a way for you to get around it. And then they're like, okay, well, if old players want to fish, they can fish exactly the way they used to. But if new players don't want to deal with it, they can just use the net. And
there is a point to be made that we might be slightly missing, and it is the fact that they do make these games for the Japanese first, and it would surprise you what the Japanese don't mind doing or what they actually do take the time to do. They do not play video games like normal people. Or rather, they play games differently from everyone else. I'd say there would be a lot of people in Japan who would genuinely take issue with the fishing changing. Or maybe not changing, but disappearing. Like, they would actually
disappearing maybe, but there should be improvement. Like, it's not a fun minigame. And it could be, is the problem, bro.
I suppose what I mean is that their fear that there would be backlash would be more in the context of the domestic player base rather than the international one, because if they got rid of it, I mean, the international player base wouldn't care because indeed none of them like it, but I think that there would be a lot of people who actually consider it to be a big part, not a big part, but a considerable part of how they play the game. It's just... all I can say is you observe the way the Japanese play, and it does blow your mind sometimes. They just engage with stuff a bit more. So yeah, that might be part of why they were a bit worried about. But
all I know is that when Twilight Princess had a fishing game in it, I played it for fucking hours because it was an element of the game that, even though it was separate from the story, was so fun and meaningful as an experience that I kept going back to it. And I don't understand why there can't be a farm like that, why there can't be fishing like that, why there can't be some element of item crafting like that. Like, these systems can be improved while leaving the core loop of the game the same.
Yes.
And that is something that they're, like, so afraid to engage with. And it's just frustrating because leaving it in because you feel obligated to is almost worse than taking it out if it's not good.
Yeah. But I suppose we're in danger at this stage of sounding like Capcom do wrong no matter what they do in the context of 5th gen. And perhaps in some cases 4th gen, because, when they modernize, they're doing wrong, and then when they keep it the same, they're doing wrong. I suppose what we mean is that all of our criticisms are not taken individually, they're taken with the bigger picture in mind. every single Monster Hunter game that has come out has had a glaring issue. But that doesn't mean we dislike the game, it's more that there is a balance of positives and negatives at play here that creates a game that we enjoy or ultimately don't enjoy. And it would be nice to see certain things addressed that just get left alone, like for example the fishing, as you mentioned, Ethan. So there are easy wins, and maybe calling improving fishing an easy win would not be quite right, but I guess what you would say, there are obvious things to improve, but they instead choose to throw them away. I think anything that makes the game more meaningful is important. Creating shortcuts to the enjoyment is not the right way, but of course that's the direction that video game design has gone in general, and that's definitely given Capcom success. Creating that shortcut, at least in the short term, in the early game, has been very, very useful to them. Completely opened things up.
Yeah, and to address what you said before about, Capcom do wrong no matter what, I wouldn't say that that's entirely true. Like, I think art-wise, Sunbreak was incredibly beautiful. I don't know if you've ever watched videos of Sunbreak. It's incredibly gorgeous. I think that gameplay-wise, World even gets a lot of stuff right in the end game. The Clutch Claw was a mistake, but they know that. They know that that was a mistake, and that was something they didn't see coming, and they addressed it in Wilds in a really smart way. And Wilds is supposed to be an onboarding for new players, so yes, the content that is available is going to be really easy for you and I, but there is going to be content down the road. Like in World, there's still content that I never beat because it was just too freaking hard. And I didn't have the time or energy to invest in it because I knew Wilds was coming out. I might go back and beat Fatalis at some point. I did beat Elatreon, but it's interesting. It's like they have done good. And
absolutely. I mean, the point that I was making was that when we complain about both things, like going in both directions, it may give off the impression that we're unsatisfied, but it's more that we're just getting into the details, getting into the weeds of what Capcom could do better. I think it can sound a little bit dismissive and even contrarian to complain about things going in both directions, both modernization and stagnation with things staying the same. But yeah, all of these things are a part of a bigger picture. It's like, every time, like I used to, for example, mention a glaring issue that I really disliked about World, and then people would say, oh, but that's not really that big of a deal. But then I say to them, well, yes, but that's not my only issue with the game. It's not one or two things that I have a problem with, it's multiple things, and that's the thing. Same with positives and negatives, it always has to be taken in context with the full game, and that's what's going to determine your enjoyment at the end of the day. And I suppose the reason why I didn't really like 5th gen at all was because the direction that they were moving in, yeah, maybe there were some things that I could get on board with and some things that I couldn't, but ultimately, the way they rebooted the game, they pretty much rebooted the series, completely overhauled fundamental characteristics, and because I was never going to enjoy those already, the other things that they then introduced that weren't so fundamental, particularly the things they did really, really poorly in my opinion, just made the game totally unplayable. What already would have been a challenge became unplayable for me. Like fundamental things about how the armor skill system changed, which can be argued was a necessity because it was too complicated to make armor. Well, I don't really like how they changed the skills. I felt like some of the skills were made unnecessary. They obviously went further in the direction of things like critical boost, insofar as it's so damn strong that you pretty much had to have it, otherwise you were really, really lacking in effectiveness compared to what you could be doing. And yeah, so I also didn't like how they felt that it had to be simplified. One of the examples that I give for the change of the armor skill system being unnecessary is the Adolkar armor set. from Generations Ultimate. That was the first time that, like a lot of things, like what I mentioned previously with giving people free items, that was something that Generations Ultimate experimented with before moving on into 5th generation. And that was an excellent example of people having the option to have a simplified skill system, whereby you literally just equip your armor pieces and then put in decorations to get your armor skills. And then also your talismans as well, made possible by the fact that all of these would get the double the amount of skill points that it otherwise would have when slotted in, thanks to the way the Adalkar armor works. Now, that was a simplification that did not come at the expense of the overall skill system. That was a simplification that people had access to if they felt that it was necessary. You may not even need for it to be at the very end of the game like it was in Generations Ultimate, but one thing that I really respected when it came to Generations Ultimate was that the gimmicks, and in the case of Adalkar, the simplifications, were optional. It's when you completely reboot a series, overhaul it, at the expense of the way things were, with the understanding that the way things were was actually pretty tasteful, that's when you start to lose me. And that's where you start to lose the room when it comes to the traditional hunters. But I felt that they had... I suspect that they felt that they needed to approach it that way if they were going to get a totally new audience on board. And we failed, oh well. But yeah, at the end of the day, our criticisms might hold weight when it comes to whether the games are getting better or worse, but it's absolutely not up for debate that for Capcom's bottom line, the decisions they've made have been much, much more effective than any decision they've made for the series prior to 2018.
Yeah, I have a lot more patience for Capcom than I do of the people that have how do I put this? There are people that call what we're doing right now gatekeeping, which is being critical of like the direction the series goes, which is like we have seen a descent from or a change of philosophy from a relationship with serotonin, which is I'm doing something that's really hard and kind of is creating suffering for me. And then when I am over it, when I defeat it, when I overcome it, I am flooded with serotonin and feel amazing. And I feel like I've accomplished something. I changed. I grew. I got bigger. I got stronger. And that's something that Monster Hunter prior to 5th gen was really good at creating and cultivating in people. And it honestly teaches people how to be better in all sorts of ways in life and in video games. And in the new stuff, the philosophy is a relationship with dopamine. And while I do think in World they kind of like push it further into the later stuff, you can have that relationship with serotonin again, but it's most of the content in the game is just this press the button, win a prize, press the button, win a prize, press the button, win a prize. And I've heard people argue things that were so frustrating to me because it's like, bro, like at what point do you just have a box full of materials at your camp that you don't even have to hunt the monster anymore?
Well, this business of infinite restocks, I mean, you mentioned it briefly before because it is, at this stage, the norm. I will never, ever consider that acceptable. That, to me, the idea that at any point in a hunt, you just go back and refill your inventory from your box, that completely blows my mind. I can probably get on board with the idea of having access to the equipment part of your box so that you can change your equipment in the hunt. But to actually give you not only the option to not prepare for the hunt at all before you depart on it, but also to give yourself infinite restocks, to me, that I actually can't connect with that at all. Whatever game design decision that was, because every game design decision is backed by a lot of thought, not just with one person, but with a group of people. You know, everyone goes, oh, how are we going to do this? Oh, let's make this decision. Is this good? What's this going to affect, etc. I have got no idea what brought them to that decision. To me, everyone at that table should have said, well, that's not right. That goes against everything we've done in this series up until now and is definitely a step in the wrong direction. Let's not do that. Let's draw the line at departing on a quest and just having everything that you otherwise would have in a box outside of the hunt instead inside of the hunt. That is unbelievable to me. I'll never understand it.
Yeah, I think that Just Jezza is right. It was the casuals, but it was also, I think that they made that decision before they realized how impossible it was going to be to balance against. I think
Which
that
they
they
should-
thought, oh, this will be a nice
should have
quality of
known.
life update.
They should know better than anyone how hard it is to balance a Monster Hunter game because they did it for 4 generations and never got it right. So they should know better than anyone that introducing that kind of advantage to the hunter was going to be a complete nightmare for balancing. But no, they just did a fucking Olympic long jump into shit swamp and decided, let's go all in. Let's just give the hunter all of their stuff. Anyway, I mean, of course, there are other issues when it comes to how strong the hunter is and how many advantages the hunter has over monsters in general that make that overall point much more substantive. But my god, that is a fucking powerful constituent part to how the hunter has become too strong in 5th generation. 6th, again, all of what I say is with a very limited knowledge of 6th generation. I'm mostly referring to how Monster Hunter changed in 5th generation.
No, like I said about 6th gen, a lot of that change is still there. You still are too powerful relative to the monster. The problem, I think, or the place where I'm willing to make a giant, I'm willing to extend a big old olive branch is that, like, there, I cannot stress this enough, and no matter how many times it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't feel like it's enough. There's not a combination of words that gets across how strongly I feel about what I'm about to say, but the weapons in Wilds are literally perfect. They are, every one of them, perfect. You can pick up any of them and you'll be like, this feels right. Like the same feeling that you get when you're younger and you pick up that one weapon where you're like, this is my weapon. Every weapon feels that way suddenly. They mastered all of them. So you have that, and then they have a lot of the same issues that like 5th gen has when it comes to balancing and like the restocks and stuff like that. But the fights are still so, especially in solo, they're so fun that it doesn't really bother you quite as much because you're getting this like this very flow statey kind of it's offering something different than what we're getting here because we're not really in a flow state here. We're in like a fight for our lives kind of thing, but it's an exceptional feeling. It's definitely something impressive, and with time and with balance changes and with more difficult content added, because now they've onboarded several million players who have gotten through the low rank and if they want they can continue into the high rank and into the master rank, and that content is going to get harder. I know for a fact that they know how to make this stuff difficult. They did it at the end of World, and they can do it again. They just have to be brave enough to throw stuff at their players that make it harder for the player to succeed than to fail. I would prefer if what they would do is they would throw a win rate at you at most. This is the way I imagine it. An incredibly skilled hunter with all of the information of the monster and a build that is specifically for that monster should be achieving a victory 100% of the time to 90% of the time. Somebody who's using a general purpose set should be winning 75% of the time to 80% of the time. Somebody with a general knowledge of the monster and a set that's not optimized for it at all should be winning 55 to 60% of the time. And somebody with no knowledge of the monster and the wrong gear should be winning 30% of the time to 45% of the time. That's the way I imagine it should all like kind of shake out. And if they can just get that curve right, Wilds is going to be the best Monster Hunter game that's ever been released. Because the combat is just, it's better than any combat in any game I've ever played. I've never seen anything like it. Like, I mean, I'll not be playing the game and actively thinking about how I wish I was playing with the sword and shield right now, or I wish I was fucking around with the charge blade, or wish I was behind the lance. They just
Yeah.
they feel that good. It's a real shame that your computer couldn't run the demo because you would have an inkling of what I mean if you could have gotten to play and feel
that's
it
right.
in your hands. Because it goes from being, like I said, it's like gaining a massive amount of articulation in your expression with the hunter. It's almost more one-to-one than what we're getting here.
Mhm.
They just have to find a way to balance the challenge. Because I don't want focus mode to go away, or what has come of Wilds, because I think that more good has come than bad. I just want them to find a way to balance the difficulty around it so that I can have both, because I think that it could be both.
Well,
And that's kind of like where I stand on that. I think that's the real meat and potatoes of how I feel about Wilds in general.
your gushing endorsement of the Wilds combat has encouraged Jezza to at least give the demo a try. And yeah, like, I've heard a lot of what you've had to say about the game and genuinely feel like it's worth trying and is likely to be very good given the circumstances. I think if you're going to compare it to its immediate predecessor, it is going to fare very well regardless, but especially taking that into consideration and even just comparing it to World, it sounds like it's moved in a very positive direction. So I'm happy for Capcom if that's true, and if that scenario bears out throughout the lifespan of the low and high rank portion of the game, and indeed the master rank portion. But it sounds like, look, you did send me that message on Discord where you listed all the things that you had wrong, or all of the problems that you had with Wilds, and yeah, there's a lot that they could have done differently, but I suppose what you could say is that it's impossible for them to completely abandon those things that you take issue with, you know, the cat and how it heals you, the sacred. I would say the sacred probably is the most egregious of all of them. The idea that you're in mid-combat and then suddenly you call the sacred over and you can just get out of a dangerous situation. I don't really like that. I find that that was really... I think that was ill thought out. I think it's pretty obvious what they were trying to do there, but...
Yeah, it was the same mistake they made in Rise.
It takes away the sense of danger. The fact that in the back of your mind you've got the opportunity to get out of there if you really need to is going to affect your interaction with the monster. It has to. I'm assuming there's no real limit to how you would, or how many times that you can do that. It's just always there in the background as an option. Is that right? Oh, no.
We might need to run this one again. Jezza, yes, you can skip cutscenes. I don't think you can skip the walking ones, but I don't know. It didn't seem like that much of an imposition for me, because I think about the story and then the game itself as being two separate games that exist on the same disc. And to address your question, Doom, can you reformulate the question for me so that I might understand it a little bit better?
Yeah, so basically... Yeah, when I watched you play Wilds, you would get into these dangerous situations where you would go, oh shit, and then you would jump on your sacred, and then obviously you've got this incredible mobility, you have full control over the situation, you get yourself into a safe area, and then, you know, regroup, heal yourself. Is that literally something you can do whenever you want?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no cooldown, nothing like that. It's just always something that exists in the background. It's an option for you. If that's the case, there is no way that doesn't affect how you're going to experience the game. Like that, and what I mean by that more specifically is you are always going to feel like you've got that safe option. If you... it's sort of like the difference between playing laser tag and playing paintball. Like, the knowledge that getting hit with a paintball is going to fucking hurt is going to completely change how you play that. Whereas here in Monster Hunter, the knowledge that you've always got that back door, you can just get out of a dangerous situation straight away rather than having to deal with it right there as you're fighting the monster, I think is going to actually weaken the interaction. They'll probably find ways to counterbalance that issue that I'm describing, you would hope. If they haven't already figured it out, they're going to have to. But again, they're just introducing things that are going to make it harder to balance this. And I don't think they need to. It's needless, in my opinion.
I agree, and the sacred I think would be good if they took away that ability and they took away the auto tracking. Like everything about the sacred I love. I love how it moves through the environment. I love that you can grab stuff off of. I love that you can grab certain collectibles while you're riding the sacred, etc. The fact that it can snatch you up in combat. Now, don't get me wrong; they attempt to balance combat around this, but it kind of ends up being. I'll compare it to Clutch Claw in that it becomes a rotation in the same way that Clutch Claw became a rotation. Where Clutch Claw, it was like clutch monster while it's not enraged, bang it against the wall, make the monster fall over, attack the monster, wait for the monster's enraged to cool off, clutch it, bang it against the wall, attack it while it's down, repeat. In Wilds, the way that it goes is fight your heart out, try really hard not to get hit by the monster, inevitably get hit by the monster because you overcommit, because the weapons invite you to overcommit because of how good they feel, like when you're using them, and then the sacred bails you out. And when the sacred bails you out, you're like circling the monster where it can't hit you, and then you're healing yourself, you're using consumables, and you're sharpening your weapon, and then you jump back into the fight. That's the way it always goes. And that is a problem because like that splits the fight up. The only thing you're sacrificing is time on monster. And if you're not a speedrunner, nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like the only risk to me should not be a loss of my time.
Yeah.
That just doesn't feel right to me. It feels off. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
Do I love the sacred? Yes, I do. I developed a relationship with the sacred where I really loved my sacred and liked having it, but I didn't like that the game gave you the same option that the Palamute was, which was it was like, okay, now you can jump on your Palamute to go and sharpen and heal. Jesus, this thing
What
is
a great
just, like, being
fucking start.
relentless today.
What a great fucking start. Yeah, obviously with Gunner Defense, it is an absolute death sentence to be blast blighted. Let's persist. We won't restart this again, we'll just fucking keep moving. I mean, yeah, I feel like I've performed really bad against this monster during this, not just this particular hunt, but in this whole session. And I can only say that with confidence because it's not like I haven't fought this thing before. I'm not usually this poorly organized. Maybe just the dynamic of fighting this thing with two people is throwing me for a loop.
Yeah,
but anyway.
You're definitely used to having like more time where the monster's chasing somebody else besides just you or me.
Yeah. And our cats are not always here. But anyway, doesn't mean that we should fret. We will persist, as I say. And at this stage, I'm using something very overpowered, so we have no business losing. This is a pretty disgusting loadout, what I've got here. Good old slicing ammunition, something that Capcom has struggled to balance ever since this game, actually. They balanced it in Generations Ultimate by making it internal ammo only, and then after that, I don't know what the fuck they were doing. I literally don't know what the fuck they were doing, because very predictably, it was very overpowered in World, or rather very predictably, it would be overpowered, was overpowered, they had to balance it, and, yeah. It still remains pretty strong in World, I think. I could be wrong, but... yeah, slicing is really strong now because it has a motion value. I understand why they made it stronger, for anyone who has experience with slicing shot in 3rd generation. My god, what a thoroughly useless shot type on every level. But, yeah, here it's a bit too strong. Anyway, we should succeed as long as I use this. Oh. Okay.
Nah.
No, don't worry. I have a lot of damage, as I say. We will win.
Okay.
As long as I don't die, I guess.
The demo was a beta that was it was temporary. I don't think it's still available.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I did die. I should have just stayed on the ground. I don't know why I didn't. I think sometimes I forget that that's an
I
option.
actually didn't have any mega potions because I went to my item set and I restocked my item set, but I was out of mega potions and I didn't realize that it didn't restock the mega potions. So
There you go. There's
that was
an excellent...
doomed from the start.
Yeah, well, there's an excellent example of why item sets are not always the answer. You become so... your autopilot, Ethan, is to restock automatically. My autopilot, without even thinking, is to go and look for the manual thing to put in my box. And if it's not there, I can't put it in my box. Or rather, can't put it in my inventory. But, anyway. Yeah, I'm not...
Alright, let me make some mega potions. Oh, damn, I'm like out of potions. Let me go buy some potions here. She sells them, right?
She does. Yeah, Jezza, I'm also running a 1080 Ti. And when I launched the game, it was a black screen. So...
That was funny, dude. That was actually crazy.
yeah. Just a black fucking screen. In fact, your system's technically better than mine, Jezza. I've got i7 7700K 1080 Ti. But I don't suspect that you'll have any greater joy in your ventures. I will be upgrading soon. Hopefully, what is it? The 9070 XT or some shit? Whatever AMD's top... Yeah, whatever AMD's top of the line is this time. I'm not buying fucking Nvidia. Those people can actually drown in a pool of their own snot and piss. I just cannot get over those people. Their behavior has been shocking this generation with their release.
Are you talking about the 50 series?
Yeah, 50 series has just been a joke. But anyway. Yeah, it's been long enough. It's been almost 8 years since I assembled this PC. Recently fucked it up by dropping it off a table, which is a great way to fuck up a computer. Got it repaired, and I'm just going to be cruising along with this until I upgrade. Hopefully mid to late this year. But, yeah, wow. Even running this game, to be honest, with my specs, for those who are familiar with the specs that I mentioned, can be challenging. Someone actually asked earlier on if it's difficult to play online in this game. Not really, there's a little bit of a setup process, but god. If you've got an older system like mine, it's not going to run very smoothly. And indeed, if you're playing on a mobile phone like some people do, it's only an option if you've got a pretty decent one. It's because that variable frame rate makes for all sorts of performance issues and performance inconsistencies.
Are you going to build a computer from scratch, or are you doing just upgrades?
I'll build one from scratch, because I'll probably get some use out of this one still. I'll probably use that as a streaming PC. I find that easier than using a laptop for those purposes, which I still have yet to do. That's, you know, I only recently got a decent laptop with which to stream from, but yeah, I'm going to give that a try soon. May even do it with this game so that I can run it in better graphics, but...
I have a 4070, I think.
4070, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It has no problems running Wilds. I run everything on medium because I want maximized frame rate.
Yeah. Sometimes
I don't see a difference in the textures, really.
Sometimes I forget how outdated my system is, and then I remember that I'm still running a fucking quad-core CPU. And then I remember. And then I just sort of cry in 2017 flavored tears. Okay,
That's
I
all
think
right. You'll have a nice new computer soon, and you'll be able to play whatever you want.
yeah. Well, I enjoyed that for a few years. Top of the line for a few years was nice, and then that's what happens. Time just sort of slips away. I got a nice hand-me-down GPU back in 2008. It was an old ATI card. Very, very nice at the time. Can't remember what it was called, but yeah, I was able to enjoy PC gaming at that time for a number of years, and then it became relatively shit again. Oh, we really are not having any luck, are we? Oh well. Did you see the disconnect, Ethan?
I saw yours, yeah. On your screen, not on mine.
You are really
Sorry,
close to your
well-
microphone now.
Yeah.
You're like distorting.
Yeah, man. not not for nothing. I really think that my biggest issue is hearing the dog shit takes online of like brand new people to the series trying to tell other people what is and isn't going on. It's like,
Well, people have opinions,
and you
don't
feel
they?
you feel so
it
powerless
costs-
too. You're just like, ugh.
Well, yeah, you are powerless. It costs absolutely nothing to have an opinion. Doesn't matter if you grade an opinion based on whether it's informed or uninformed. An opinion will exist no matter what, and oftentimes the most strongly held opinions are the most misguided ones. So it is what it is. But yeah, I agree. The temerity that people have that, you know, they've just started playing the game for about 5 minutes and then all of a sudden they know precisely what they're talking about. I mean, unfortunately, you can only speak about the series when you see all of the other games in context. I mean, you're welcome to comment on how you feel about the game that you're playing, but if you're going to talk about what's good for the series, you simply can't comment unless you have experience in the older games. You need to know where something has come from in order to have a position on that. But I've experienced that before. That was me when Dark Souls 2 came out. When Dark Souls 2 came out, everyone had an opinion. Well, it was more that I would put forth my opinions regarding what had been done wrong in Dark Souls 2, but all of the counter-arguments that would come were without any experience of having played the previous game, so it's like, well, you haven't experienced the alternative, so where are you speaking from? The point is, people are always happy to have opinions, whether uninformed or otherwise. Or informed or uninformed. Did you end up making another room?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
It's a little freshy. Yep, that's absolutely right, Jezza. I can't parry them.
Yeah, you used to actually get into little online fights with people. I remember that.
Still do. I still do.
Oh dear.
No, I'm in YouTube comments all the time telling people that they're wrong, and I'll write whole essays. Like I will sit there in bed like writing an essay about like.
That's why you've got such
Why?
well-developed opinions on this. Now I really understand. I mean, yeah, you're really good at expressing this stuff just naturally, but I have not done that. I have never developed it into a thesis or any sort of written form. And yeah, I don't know how you have the energy to do that. It's like, you know, man shouts at cloud kind of thing.
It's a little different for me because when I do that, it's more me. So we've had the discussion about the invisible bicycle before, right?
I don't recall.
So the idea is that there's a concept that exists in reality that's like very nebulous and hard to get a hard outline around, and you can't see it, but you know it's there.
Yeah.
So it's this
hypothetical invisible bicycle, and the only way that you can really tell what you're looking at is if you throw a blanket over top of it. And
see.
when I speak about these things and I write about these things that I really care about, what I'm doing is I'm getting a thinner and thinner and thinner and more flexible and more pliable blanket to throw over top of it. So it goes from being a comforter where who knows what the hell could be underneath that thing. You have a general sense that something's there, but the more you dig into it, the more you understand your own thoughts, and the more you like test your own logic against hypotheticals, the more you can kind of cut away at the fat of like, okay, this is what this concept is. This is why I feel the way I feel. This is probably why other people feel the way they feel. Um, these these are the facts. These are the opinions that are informed by those facts. And all of those things are cyclical. They all are related to one another. And if you can find the lines, which the only way to do that is, again, to kind of throw that blanket over top of that invisible bicycle, um, you can see a better picture of what is actually happening, what's actually going on. Or at least that's always been my perspective. And I handle everything that I care about that way. All of the things in my life that I have strong opinions on, I'm always kind of throwing the blanket over the invisible bicycle, and the way that you do that is by talking about it at length, writing about it at length, and thinking about it deeply, so that you can get as much of the picture as you possibly can.
Yeah. Something
Number
that struck
one,
me as well was just how you would talk to this roommate of yours who just... I mean, the best way that I can summarize your roommate in a sentence is the polar opposite to a purist Monster Hunter player. He is the polar opposite. The way he plays, I can't even comprehend, and the way that you've taken the time to try and comprehend how he enjoys and plays the game, and the way you've used it to inform your own opinions has been very beneficial to you as well.
yeah, I think it's just because like it helps me test what I think against hypotheticals. It helps me test my logic. When he tells me without a hint of irony, "Oh, I don't use potions," you hear something like that, and you're like, "What do you mean you don't use potions? Like what?" and then he goes into this long conversation about how, oh well, the cat is just so like the cat is more efficient, and so is the what is the other thing, the little thing you stick in the ground.
Yeah, the little
So
healing cloud.
a combination of that and the cat, he says he just doesn't need potions, and he hasn't been using them all the way up until he finally gets into G rank, where he's having to learn that system. But he's right. Like you put those two options out there, and then you tell somebody, okay, when you heal, it's going to slowly fill your health bar, and you're going to lose speed, and the animation is going to lock you in. And then if something happens, if you touch a wall or fall off of something, or the monster roars, you're going to lose that healing. And then he sees this alternative, which is like you can stand in a cloud where it doesn't matter if it's roaring, doesn't matter if it attacks you. Just stand in the cloud. Or you can wait for your Palico to heal you, which you can ask for healing. You can level up its ability to heal you. Like, all of these points are incredibly valid, and this is what I mean when I say that these systems cannibalize one another. These two systems don't exist. They don't function efficiently alongside
Yeah, they're
one
not
another.
cohesive in any way. They sort of exist in spite of one another.
Exactly. And one of them actually seems to... the cat and the healing thing, I don't know what it's called. I forget what it's called. The health booster. They seem to antiquate the potion system. In a way that for a new player, they see that and they're just like, okay, well, why would I bother with potions when this system works so much better? And I hear that and I'm like, you know what? That's valid. Like it's valid. Like it's more efficient. Like you put that stuff on paper, you line that up against like all of the disadvantages to using a potion in world. Yeah. Valid point. Hard
Yeah.
not to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and the only reason why I struggle to imagine it and wouldn't do it myself is because built within me is the habit of using a fucking potion to heal myself. I'm not going to take the time
Right.
to figure
It's
out the other things.
because when the
Well, I use the
system
other
was
things.
there and it was the only thing you could use, when that system was the only thing you could use and you had to contend with it, otherwise fail, it it becomes this very like, aw, damn.
Well, that death, I'm
It's
sorry to say, just to walk away from the point that you're making and just, a quick aside, that was the most bullshit fucking combo I've experienced from this monster in this live stream. That can fuck right off. I don't have time for that. Oh, and you disconnected anyway. That may be where we conclude, actually. That... that's rough.
Yeah,
We did sort of conquer Molten Tigrex, though. Sorry, I did interrupt your point while you were
making
making
We just got caught up on our conversation and stuff.
Mm. Did you have more of your point to develop? I did interrupt you pretty
Not really.
pretty aggressively.
The point really stands and ends on this is a bunch of these points that people are making to me where they're telling me their experience from the new player's perspective. I hear that and it helps me further inform like, oh, okay, like this is a genuine problem that I don't think Capcom knew was going to be something that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
They're not, it doesn't occur to them that these two systems cannibalize each other and that they're disincentivizing my roommate from using the normal potion system. They're assuming they're going to use both, but there's a lot of players out there who just, if a system is not immediately intuitive, will not engage with it. They'll engage with whatever it's game theory. It's like the quickest point between two lines. Okay, my health is low. I need to be healed. What's the fastest way I can do that and the safest way I can do that? And in world, it's the fucking cat and it's the health booster. The potions are.
I feel like when I was recently playing World again, the way your cat heals you, you can start to get in a rhythm with that. You take a hit, you go looking for that cat. There's a pretty high chance it's going to have one of those things in its hands, ready to chuck it on you.
And if it doesn't have one in its hands, you can plant one of those little Vigor Wasp cages on the field for you to consume later, which, by the way, is an instant Mega Potion. All you have to do is run up to it. So it's like, what they did was they created this separate system, which is effectively a conditional version of the potion system that just worked way better. New players saw that and they were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to solve the problem of health. And it's one of those things where it's like they have these systems in the game and they don't force you to engage with it. They give you outs. And if you give people outs and then you don't make the system fun, like fishing, where you have this not fun system that's only there because of an obligation, and then you say, okay, go fishing and get a goldfish, and then they hand you the net, the arm net, the little slinger net that can catch bundles of fish. You're like, well, why would I do the stupid fishing mini game when I could just shoot the fish with my net?
Yeah.
That just the fishing mini game just got cannibalized by this net mechanic. And it's that lack of care, that lack of like, okay, we're not thinking about how these two systems are going to run up against one another. And I don't want to call it lack of care, because I doubt that Capcom will ever watch this, but if they do, like, know that this criticism comes from a place of somebody who's been playing the games since Freedom Unite, who fell in love at Try when he made his very first Ludroth armor set in low rank. and has been following the games ever since, playing them up until G rank wherever it was available, and even moved from system and console to console to play it. And it is a wonderful series, to the point of being like, it was a guarantee I was going to get the next Monster Hunter game up until 4. After 4, when World came out, and I did buy World immediately, because I was like, I'm sorry, Generations Ultimate. Generations Ultimate was the first time I ever was like, I'm starting to doubt things because of the Hunter arts, which I felt made players worse.
Yeah, that was a big,
And then,
very visual step in a different direction where things were becoming a little more automated, even. There was a level of automation to that.
And then from there, it was World, and then it's all just kind of been this rolling downhill of like, we're making these quote unquote quality of life upgrades so that we can accommodate what is, from my perspective, the lowest common denominator, aka people who don't want to sit down with a game that they don't understand until they understand it. And that's fine if it means that you guys make more money, but at the same token, every change you make for the sake of this nebulous group of people that all have different wants and needs and desires, like a fucking health bar, and you've never had a health bar, now you genuinely are asking the community if there should be health bars. That should never come out of your mouth, Capcom, ever. That's ridiculous that you would even ask that in earnest. Like, I can't believe that you asked that on an official, like, Capcom social media post. That's an example of like what I mean when I say like we're in our chase to achieve these players, these new players who would not have looked twice at these games, the one that I'm staring at right now, that we've gone to great lengths to get access to, which there is no access to this. Nintendo has cut off our access to this if we wanted to play it without an emulator. And yet we still play it because of how much we love it. We get farther and farther away from anything akin to this to accommodate people who would not even look twice at this, which is your legacy.
Yeah.
And that is where it's like a real dagger in the heart.
That has been what I've said, like precisely that. The part of what caused me to walk further away from the direction the series has gone in is because they started making games for people who never would have played the games that I fell in love with. And inevitably, you're going to end up with something that you're going to fall out of favor with, inevitably, when it goes in that direction. But no, you and I are gatekeeping, of course.
That's maybe we, even if we are, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to apologize. You can call me a gatekeeper, and even if it's true, I liked this. And if you gave me a game that was stylized, that looked like Outlanders, but played like this, give me focus mode, give me slightly faster monsters, but give it all of the exact same mechanics is what you're looking at here, right down to the balance of like how often you get access to items and gathering. Like, if it's not too much to ask, why can't we have both? Why can't we have the new player experience that comes with these big, new, lofty titles that you dump tons of money into, and then give us, the old school fans, a stylized version of the game, which is something more closer to this experience?
I was really expecting they'd do that. Like when they were talking about the next game on the Switch, I really did think that they were going to go in two different directions. I remember a time before Rise was ever mentioned. Well, what I mean is it was never announced. There were never any small bits of information coming out about the game. I said something along the lines of, I think that the titles on the Switch going forward will be more along the lines of Frontier. That's genuinely where I thought the series was heading. I thought it was going to go in a Frontier direction because you had the styles being introduced in Generations Ultimate. And it's so funny because at the time, in hindsight this sounds funny, at the time I was sitting there feeling pretty disappointed by the prospect of that. But at least then, at least under those circumstances, they would have two very separate series running concurrently still. But the way it's gone now, they've really just gone all in and decided, no, we're going to do the best that we can to make one game for everyone. Which, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion, Jezza, on the gatekeeping thing.
Well, I don't. That has absolutely no purchase with me. Anyone who sits there and says, "Oh, you're gatekeeping," well, it's a great way of completely dismissing the substance of your argument, whilst at the same time almost becoming defensive. It's like putting your spikes up and going, "It's just like a hedgehog." Like, no, just listen to what I'm saying. And I guess, admittedly, I'm not one to talk, because I've always chosen to explain my position in a very sort of rough and unfriendly way. But, you know, when people are not being unfriendly about it and saying, look, I don't like the way this game is going, and then they actually explain why, it's not gatekeeping to suggest that things were good before and are no longer good in that way, and you're frustrated that things have changed. You can say that maybe there are elements of gatekeeping in that, but to just dismiss the argument in that way, it's not constructive for anyone. It's not helpful for you. It's not going to get you closer to understanding where the series came from, or what the game you're playing is, or who you're actually playing the game with in the community. It's just a way for you to feel better about the fact that you don't actually really understand the arguments being made, because you don't have the experience.
Or refuse to contend with them.
Yeah. Like, if you actually took the time to figure it out, I mean, that should be the reaction. The reaction should be, shit, what is this person talking about? They're referring to a body of knowledge that I have no experience with. Maybe I could try to familiarize myself with that. To instead say, no, you're gatekeeping, that's reactionary in a bad sort of way. That's deciding, no, I'm actually going to put my head in the sand and say the way things are just fine. And whatever position you're talking from is irrelevant to me, because it's not my experience. And unfortunately, it is the new players who are going to dictate to you and I the games that we're going to play going forward in the series. I mean, yes, you and I will have a say to an extent, but it's the majority. The majority will speak. And the more and more new players get on board, who indeed get on board because of how accessible modern Monster Hunter is, the more their voice is going to push Monster Hunter towards things like monsters having health bars. So I would really like those people to be a little bit more open-minded. And let me just say, I've been really, really impressed with how many people have gone backwards through the series. I've seen large swathes of people coming back through Generations Ultimate, obviously the most accessible game of traditional Monster Hunter at this stage. Lots of people have taken the time to go back and play that game. I've seen lots of people who started in World meeting me. It's sort of like, it's like meeting someone from another country. It's like, oh wow, you've come so far. Where have you come from? I'm playing like 2nd gen, 1st gen. I'm playing Monster Hunter 1, and I'm meeting people who started the game in World. They started the series in World. These people do exist, and they go backwards through the series, but it is not a majority. And hopefully that will change. But yeah, I suppose we just need to hope that Capcom keep their heads screwed on and understand where the series came from, the player base that got them to where they were in 2017, and try to maintain their own artistic integrity. As I say, sounds like they're sort of going in the right direction, but there's more work to be done. That's what I think.
100%. And it's funny because, like, I feel like people act like gates don't ever have to be guarded anyway. Like, certain gates have to be guarded.
Well, if you don't guard a gate, people
it.
just fucking walk through it, eh? Sometimes,
That's
like, if you've got something important on the other side of it, you're not just going to let people walk in and take it and just degrade it. But But it
Yeah,
also,
and-
but like anything, you need to take a balanced view. Like, I can't sit here and say, ooh, new people in the series, people with different points of view, ooh, get away. Like, obviously there is a point of view which can be described as gatekeeping, which is essentially saying, oh, all you new people, fuck off. You know, you can be unwelcoming. And do you know what? Sorry to go on further, Ethan. I think part
you're
of
fine.
the gatekeeping comments actually comes from a perception of world players, possibly with Rise as well, but I remember this very, very distinctly in World. The world players feeling like we were a very, very unwelcoming community. They felt that they were completely derided at times, and it did actually become an us versus them scenario within the community, which is never healthy. And this is, I think, where a bit of this, a bit of these claims of gatekeeping actually come from. They originate from these really toxic interactions, some of which propagated among the traditional players who actually thought that the world players were sort of a lesser species. And to be honest, I
Agreed.
would have been misinterpreted as one of those people. I say misinterpreted because it wasn't the players that I had a problem with, it was the game that I had a problem with, and it was the players who refused to see my point of view that frustrated me. I never wanted to tar everyone with the same brush, but I was aggressive, Back in 2019, 2020, I was aggressive about how I would speak out against the changes being made by Capcom to the series, and I suspect that world players took it personally. So when I say that this is what brought it on, the traditional players, this is what brought on their defensive reaction of, oh, you're gatekeeping, I accept that I probably fall within the category of traditional player who brought it on. So at the end of the day, if you're new to the series and you feel like you're not welcome, you're going to get defensive about it.
Well, I gotta tell you, if you're asking for a health bar, you're not welcome. Period. Like I'm not kidding. Like when I tell you I don't care if people call me a gatekeeper about this, I don't care. Like, call me a gatekeeper. There's shit that you're just wrong about.
Yeah.
And
well, that is where you draw the
I'm
line.
gonna put my foot down. I'm gonna put my foot down and say no. Like, you're not welcome if that's the kind of energy you bring. Oh, we'll make it toggle. No. How about no? Learn the game or go away.
Yes.
If you don't like the game, go play fucking Elden Ring. Go play fucking Dragon's Dogma. Go play Skyrim. I don't care what you play. But if you don't want to learn this one, don't try and bully Capcom into making changes to accommodate you. Either figure it out or kick rocks. That's
the game is what
and
it
I'm
is.
Cool.
The game has
I'm
its
very
own
cool
style,
with
its
being
own
a gatekeeper
identity.
on that front.
Yeah.
All right, so hold on. Jezza just sent a whole big ass essay for us.
But yeah,
I
the
used
point.
to be of the mindset a while back that gatekeeping is bad for the series, but as times went on and I saw how it affected gaming as a whole, I changed my mind and came to the conclusion that sometimes you do need some level of gatekeeping in gaming. Agreed. Like with fucking health bars. It's one of those things where it's not inherently a bad thing, but it can become a bad thing whether you have too much gatekeeping or too little of it. Too much gatekeeping can hurt if you're trying to shut off any and all newcomers, full stop. On the flip side, too little gatekeeping, and we're talking both with gamers and developers, can also lead to a drop of franchise quality level due to giving the time of day to any jackass out there that wants to tug in a different direction. That's absolutely right.
And it's like, you just need to find that balance. And of course, we draw the line, for example, at, oh, why don't these monsters have health bars? Let's give them health bars. We have to accept that Monster Hunter isn't just any old series. It has a very established identity and is distinct from other games. Seeing the fact that there are no health bars and deciding automatically that that's a bad thing, instead of taking the time to figure out, why are there no health bars? How can I enjoy the game without a health bar? You just need to change your perspective, because again, there's no reason to make Monster Hunter more like something that's familiar to you. You've chosen to come and give this game a try. Admittedly, Capcom wants you to give it a try, but also, Capcom should not stop making a distinct Monster Hunter game just because you want it to be more familiar to you. That's where I think giving monsters health bars takes us. It takes us into a direction of almost, it loses part of its identity once you do that. It's one of the crucial aspects to what makes Monster Hunter different as an RPG gets lost when you add health bars. And that's one of my big criticisms of 5th generation was not in the game precisely as it was the trajectory of where things were going, and something like adding a health bar to a monster would have been like, worst case scenario, oh shit, look at all these things that we've changed here in 5th gen, what's gonna come next? Turns out it was fucking Rise, and I was right. But it didn't actually define the future of the series, fortunately. But health bars to me is completely indefensible. It can't be done. It's unreasonable.
Yeah, you want monsters with health bars? Go play fucking Monster Hunter Stories, bro.
I should
go play Pokemon Monster Hunter.
I should play Stories. I heard that the second one was alright. I never wanted to play the first one. There are 2 reasons why. A, I was too busy playing other Monster Hunter games, and B,
you already knew the story.
the subject of that is that I actually forced... I didn't force anyone. We decided as a group, an old friend group of ours, we actually watched all 75 or so episodes of the Monster Hunter Monster Hunter Stories anime. The Monster Hunter Stories anime, of which there were far too many episodes. We watched all of them. Ethan was generally unenthused. Ethan is the sort of person who can't see terrible writing and just laugh at it. He's so frustrated by how bad it is that it's not funny, it's just painful to watch. We would just sit there and fucking laugh our asses off at this anime. But, Ethan did not partake very much in that.
It was Navidu, dude. Like, Navidu and fucking Monster Hunter Sasuke and
Monster Hunter Sasuke.
Everything about it was just like, ugh. And then the fact that, like, they were introducing all of this stupid shit. Like, how on earth are you going to tell me we live in a world where, like, there's a group of people that hunt these things and kill them because of, nature and the balance and all this shit, and it's, like, really a serious take. And then you have, oh, get this neat stone and you can fucking control these things like Pokemon, and then you can, like, change their DNA and you can make a Kezu that's poison and fire and a Zinogre that's got fucking 12 dicks. Like, no. I'm not interested. Fuck off.
Yeah. I mean, in concept, it's already challenging, right? In execution, that anime was balls to the wall trash. It was not good. It was fucking bad. I think we had managed to convince ourselves that it wasn't complete shit because we had gotten used to it, but look, in hindsight, from start to finish, it was bad. The whole thing was just worthless. I almost can't believe that it was drawn and animated, but it was. All 70-something episodes of it. And, that's an obscure, but nevertheless important accolade that I possess. I've watched all episodes of the Monster Hunter Stories anime. Monster Hunter Stories right on.
Though. That's fucking crazy.
I will not be doing that.
That's wild. Will watch the shitty Monster Hunter anime, will not watch the Monster Hunter movie with a fully 3D rendered, incredibly designed Diablos.
Yeah, because I decided that the Monster Hunter World movie surpassed the threshold of, or rather, was not funny bad, it was just cringe bad. That's what I decided.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
Yeah, when
that
there's
was
a
never gonna
muscular cat chef trying to fuck Mila Jovovich, like we've got an issue.
happen. What was
Like
there?
never
I seem
once
to
have
remember
I
that.
seen.
There was like
Yeah,
an
never once
implied
in Monster Hunter have
romance.
I seen one of the cats like flirt with a human character.
Oh my fucking god.
Also, I'm fairly certain that the general, the one that you see in World, that's played by what is his name? Hellboy. He uses a switch axe, but then uses a charge blade attack at the end of the movie. It's just so fucking. It's so weird. It's so fat and plasticky. You gotta see it, man. Not you,
I'm
but
slightly
if you
yeah.
for people who haven't seen the movie, it's an absolute travesty and it's something special.
I have to say that it's a pretty sad commentary on the state of 5th gen Monster Hunter when they then come out with that movie and decide, let's have the super big Rathalos from the movie in the video game. They fucking had an event with that fucking Rathalos, did they not?
They did.
And I actually had a genuine discussion with a fellow human being who shares the same planet as I do. And that person was trying to tell me that this is A-OK, like this is canon. This Rathalos is canon, what's the problem? I mean, this Rathalos is canon.
Who
Fuck
did you
me,
have that
son.
conversation with?
Someone in the Twitch chat. I mean, again, I would assume that this was a real human being. This, predates AI, so, an actual living, breathing human being thought that it was a great idea to have a giant fucking weird Rathalos thing from that movie in the actual Monster Hunter video game. I mean, I'm not sure what the story was behind that, but I don't suspect it was very well considered.
It was a Rathalos. That's all it was. I
But
don't
why
remember
was it
them
so
having
big?
it because in the movie, Rathalos is like this legendary, overpowered dragon. Like
Right.
that was just the size of Rathalos.
I see.
And I know that that's the case. Like, it's not an exceptionally big Rathalos. It's just a Rathalos. And I know that that's the case because when Gormagala shows up at the end of the movie, he's the same size as the Rathalos. There's not a giant Gormagala out there, is there?
So what you're telling me is that the main characters of the Monster Hunter movie are actually midgets.
I mean, either that or... I don't know, dude. I could fucking not tell you. It was just weird. Although I did have a theory with Tyler the other day about why you can move in the sand in the Monster Hunter world on boats, and why stuff can swim in it. Yeah, and it actually makes sense for certain monsters like Diablos. If you vibrate sand, you can either do this with air or with something like sound waves. It becomes very loose, and you can move through it very, very easily. If you mix a combination of technology or the idea of a massive elder dragon that lives underneath the ground that basically is constantly pushing air through the sand, it gains the properties of water.
Right.
Depending on where you are on this sand.
Capcom is pleased by your scientific justification for this this decision.
Well, I got to
This
tell you,
game
I've
design.
always loved the idea of sand boats. Ever since the very first one I saw in 4, I was like, I love this. Or no, that wasn't 4. That was Try.
In Try. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sand boats are such a cool concept. It's crazy. So I'm dope. I'm good with it.
Yep. I think we will wrap things up here. It is approaching 3 a.m. where I am, and we've had a good session. It is 3 hours in. Yeah, good to have you again, Ethan. And as
It is
for
my honor as usual, sir.
As for those of you watching, I will no longer be doing Generations Ultimate for the next month or two. Definitely the next 2 months, actually. I will instead be doing the older games, as you can see. And, yeah, I'll try to do at least 1 per week, maybe 2, depending. But for now, I do thank you for watching, and I'll see
And you
you
guys
next
keep
time.
your eyes out for the doomed link,
Oh yes,
all right? Because that's coming.
yeah.
And when it does, you're not going to be ready for it. It's going to be this kind of conversation, but at the same time, we're going to be fighting with each other about strategizing how to take on the next challenge because of our artificial self-imposed constraints.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be I think that the way that we decided to do it was have both of, because we're releasing them as YouTube videos, and we're going to have both of our screens and cameras of our faces next to our gameplay.
Yeah, this sounds really
Right.
complicated already. But
It'll be fine.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Alright. I shall bid you all farewell for now. And thanks for watching.